Hey everyone, I'm Maximilian, and this is another episode of
Oh, Dr. Doom!
At the end of like 3 months of working, I got about $500. And so I was like, "Woo, I don't know if this is gonna work out, boy."
Please, welcome to the stage, content creator, Maximilian Dood.
When I started doing this, that was not the goal. There was a hidden agenda the entire time, was that I'm gonna make you a fighting game player. The best genre of video game is fighting games. When that is echoed on screen, oh man, it makes for good entertainment.
We're on! Whoa! Whoa! What is happening?
I wanna do this shit till like I'm 60 or some shit, dude. So if you enjoy it, comment, rate, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest on Trash Talk, the man with 18 years of content creation experience, 8.4K YouTube videos, 1.86 million subs, and 1.5 billion channel views, and maybe you could argue the founding father of content creation in the fighting game space. One of the main reasons why I'm even here today. Max, thank you so much for coming on to Trash Talk today. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Thank you for the the solidifying my unk status. I appreciate that. That is good. There's a lot of very nice things in there, but all I hear is that, damn, I've been doing this for way too long.
Hey man, at this point, like once you reach unk status, like I'm there too, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we haven't gotten to like grand unk status, like that level hasn't been achieved yet. So we're all kind of
True.
in the same boat. Like anyone watching this from the Street Fighter 6 era, like a 2023er, like we're all unk. You know what I mean?
Who in the FGC would even be in grand unk status? I think like the furthest purveyor and knowledge of the history books is likely a James Chen or something like that. Like his history going back to game facts and stuff like that back in the day. So yeah, maybe James might be a grand unk at this point. Like
He's
a
leading
wizard
the next
warrior.
generation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not there yet exactly, but I mean, like it is interesting to think that you were like the previous generation or the original generation of content creators, because now I think the space has been so like mature in that sense where
Sure.
You have been through so many different eras and you were in like the primordial soup of YouTube. Like figuring out what this thing will be originally. And that's definitely something I want to tap into in this conversation and your experience in going through these different eras. But before we get into like the nitty gritty history, I want to do a speed round real quick. I'm trying to do a little icebreaker, little speed round. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. I want you to not think. Just word association.
And it doesn't have to be around the content creation side, because as I know your podcast, it really delves into like the competitive side and how people from a mentality perspective, like I love hearing that, like their thought process when things were happening in the moment. That was a significant part of all of my career, but it was only a portion of it, because we all can't just be the highest level competitors for our whole lives, right? So yeah, if there's anything in regards to where my mind space is at into any of that, I'm willing to talk about it, even though I haven't personally investigated it for a very long time. It's been going on like actually about 10 years now.
10 years now. Wow. Okay, so yeah, we'll get into the details of that one, but let's do just a quick speed round real quick.
Sure.
Favorite Street Fighter to play?
That's an easy one. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Of course. Favorite fighting game to watch competitively?
Oh, dang.
No thinking.
So that definitely a few of the Marvel versus Capcom series, but I'd argue the one that also doesn't disappoint is Third Strike. Yeah, I'd argue Third Strike. I can just always watch it. It's always interesting.
Very true. One fighting game pro that inspired you?
I'd say the person that actually got me to be as hardcore into Third Strike was Moment 37. So Daigo. I usually didn't idolize a ton of players, like individuals, but that Daigo moment was so viral in 2004 that like it definitely ignited a spark where it's like, I want to do that against people.
Of course.
I'm doing that against people. Like, this is my motivation.
Yeah.
So probably Daigo.
Yeah, that was mine too. Best Call of Duty?
Damn. I would go between COD 4, OG Xbox 360, or probably personal favorites, Modern Warfare 2. OG Modern Warfare 2, not the new one. And that's only because Modern Warfare 2 is the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 of the Call of Duty series.
Very true. Very true. Okay, most underrated fighting game?
Underrated. Oh boy. Man, if I said DNF Duel, but it's very rated.
Say it. Say it. I love
I'm
DNF
not.
Duel.
You know what? I don't think I would. Underrated fighting game. To be honest, is it underrated to say Killer Instinct? Maybe, because it was always a little bit outside of the FGC zeitgeist. You know, it grew a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of community, but it was always like, for example, like at the time the Capcom FGC was the most important thing like out there, period. So they just never adopted it. It was always like a growth that happened. But it kind of started like between defining online netcode, gameplay that was not like the same thing all the time, like defining moments, like all that kind of stuff. Like I worked on it, so I'm a basic bitch in that regard. But I think it was a truly pioneering ass game that will never get a sequel.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting answer, because I feel like if that game released a few years later, it maybe wouldn't be as pioneering. It still would be in the netcode sense, but it would have found its window in the post Street Fighter V world. I think it released in the pinnacle of Street Fighter 4, like esports starting to evolve and all that. And the Capcom side of things there was no bandwidth to pick up another game besides like Street Fighter and MVC3. But in the post Street Fighter V era, I think it would have shown a lot more.
That's the interesting thing about that Street Fighter V era, where it's because of the beginning of the game specifically, the game not appealing to its core audience. So many people dispersed and investigated other options. And it was one of the reasons why Tekken kind of blew up at the time, because in the fighting game space, Street Fighter wasn't providing. So yeah, if it came out like a little bit later, it could have been the game that could have found a much bigger audience, especially if it wasn't just on an Xbox One that nobody liked.
Yeah, that's another big problem for sure.
Hey, thanks for checking out the brand new Trash Talk content, and maybe you're enjoying the new and refreshed look on the brand new Trash Talk YouTube channel. Well, whether or not you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify or another podcast platform, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, you. To commemorate kicking off the new season of Trash Talk, we've also launched a new merch line. This new merch line's on a brand new merch store over at Orchid 8. You can check out t-shirt and hoodie designs for the new Trash Talk logos and extra trashy logos. We also have brand new unique designs like Hajoken, custom move lists, one more coffee sip for real, and of course, Brian F's signature spaghetti. On top of that, of course, we've got all the designs on mugs as well. To check out what's available, just head over to brianf.shop to see all the brand new merch. Okay, that's all I got. Back to the episode.
Okay, then most overrated fighting game. Tough one.
Oh damn. Damn, is there any game that I look at with like a little bit of spite, or I'm just like, this game? I have to think about that. Where did my brain go immediately? My brain, I think I immediately went to maybe Tekken 7 to a degree. I think that a great game, right? But I think Tekken 7 definitely was like the perfect game at the perfect time for a lot of folks, which is why it like got so many people. And it doesn't qualify for like the entirety of it. It was a bunch of like peaks and valleys in that game's entire existence, but it could always perform very well. I could never find what made that game fun because of the online experience. And I could not believe that many people were playing it online and accepting that this is okay. It was like, I just cannot, dude. There are other options that are so much better and so much more fun.
Yeah, I actually fully agree with that, because Tekken 7 was the first Tekken I tried to pick up after like mashing with Tekken 3 as a kid. You know, after post eyes open to what fighting games actually are under the hood, I went back to Tekken 7 when that released, and get ready for the next battle. That hit. Like, I could not deal with another one of those loading screens ever again. After trying to like actually care about learning the game, having to rematch and get the reps in, I was like, I hit my moment of like 10 losses in a row, and then on that 11th get ready for the next battle, I was like, I'm out. Like, my time,
something snapped.
My time is not being respected here. Like, I can instant rematch in almost any other game of this era. I was like, nah, I'm out. It produced grace moments, though.
It's a combination of all of those things. And yeah, at high level, and even at like just playing the game itself was great. Like, I think actually just like enjoying it as an experience is good, and learning it was good. I don't think I dislike the defensive nature of the game. I just was in a major character crisis for the longest time playing Tekken, and I just could not find enjoyment out of T5DR online T6, Tag 2, or 7, and it wasn't until 8 where it's like I can actually play this and not want to eat my hand.
Interesting. And especially considering how divisive Tekken 8 is right now.
Oh, it is. Oh, it certainly is. Yeah.
Oh, even like hinting at a positive opinion of that game, it attracts very interesting responses from different corners of like the FGC bubble that I'm usually not in. You know, I did the episode of VDX, and you start to see it converge. And I've seen like the different corners of the YouTube verse with Tekken 8, and it's a very strange time for that game. It's dangerous to say you liked any part of it. I
definitely go out on a limb where it's like I will completely acknowledge the things that it has issue with, and the game dropped me for 8 months. Like I just got back into playing it again right now, and it's weird looking at like just like Steam charts and how many people are playing. And a lot of the audience echoed the exact same thing. There was just a big portion of 2025 where no one cared, and it just lost like 25% of what normally plays the game. And then right around like the end of the year, people jump back on. And I think it's like the weird cycle of a fighting game where it's like, oh yeah, the DLC season either is or not doing it for you. And then as new characters come out, there's like the hope and possibility of a big change in the future of like a balance patch or something that's going to shake things up. So everyone just starts naturally congregating back, hoping that I'm going to get a little bit better at this in anticipation for the future. So I think that's maybe where I'm at too. I'm just really enjoying it right now. It's like, I know I don't really have a main fighting game, and I still haven't put nearly as much time into Tekken 8 as I did Street Fighter 6. Like, I think I actually put like 500 plus hours into Street Fighter 6 in the first 2 months, 2 to 3 months. It was a lot. So that being said, over time, it's just like, Tekken 8's just been like, it stole Street Fighter from me. Like Tekken just came out and it was good and I was just playing it. But I've been able to like accept more about the game as a game, because I was not severely attached to 7 or Tag or 6. So because of not having like so much of the audience was introduced at that time, I was introduced in 3 and like 2. So same as you. So my acceptance of like what is bullshit is kind of not as much. And I think it makes up for the fact that in a similar way, compared to Street Fighter 6, characters can do a lot of stuff. Like, so much that the audience hates it because it's so hard to keep track of. But there's like full character capability. So you can just come up with the grimiest things and some setup that no one's ever seen before. There's no way to account for it. There's like no way to defend or account for it. And in a similar way, Street Fighter 6 is like, let's give characters a whole bunch of great tools to work with. And it's like, characters are more stacked than they ever have been. But in both games, the system mechanics are just like, this is the most important. Like the core game mechanics are like, these are always going to dominate though, and be really what you have to worry about. So it's like, they have the exact same issue.
Oh yeah. I definitely want to get into the system mechanic discourse a little bit.
Sure.
That's something I want to dive deep into and get your perspective. Someone who's been around for so long, playing the different games and not just playing them, but also making content about them and discussing their philosophies and game designs for so long. But before I do that, I do, of course, like want to take it back a little bit because I want to understand, when you first grabbed that camcorder and pointed it at the arcade cab. I mean, you go back to your channel. It was 2007, I think, is your first video up there. Third Strike Casuals. Like in 2007, YouTube was barely a thing. I mean, that was the platform where there was like a viral video about like a squirrel stealing someone's peanuts. You know what I mean? Or like, the first video, the elephant, at a zoo, right? Like it was just for America's Funniest Home Videos Part 2, but on this weird website. And it had barely evolved beyond that, I think, until like 2008, 2009. My perspective is that's when like content started to become a thing. So you're there early. What inspired you to grab that camera and point it at an arcade cab and upload it to this thing called YouTube?
I think just with the aspect of like technology, it's this thing that you have access to, and you're like, oh, I can just put up videos for free. Like it doesn't cost anything. Like you don't have to get a web service or something like that, a hosting service in order to do that. That's the way the majority of like the internet operated at that time. So having this thing just be like, hey, it just works. And if you just want to archive your own videos and make sure they don't go anywhere, it was sort of like a storage in some way of like, oh yeah, this was what I was doing at the time, type of thing. In the exact same way that like picking up a camcorder and recording a Christmas or a holiday was. So it's like, oh, this is what I was doing at the time. Let me just like share this with other people and keep it focused around one thing, which was like a lot of like fighting game stuff. And it just very much helped that around that time frame, a bit later, Street Fighter 4 was coming out. So I was in a pretty unique spot where there was no versions of that game in America outside of like Super Arcade, which was the very first one, Family Fun Arcade, and Arcade Infinity. So all of which don't really exist anymore technically, which is really sad. But like Super was the first one, and I would drive like 2 hours to go play as much as I possibly could. And that's where I actually put the names to the faces of all the people that I knew from SRK and all the videos and Evo videos. So going back to the early 2000s. So it was like, oh, dang. It's like, that's what Combo Fiend looks like. That's what Valle looks like. That's what Edma looks like. It's like, oh, okay. So I actually met all these people at that point. But yeah, like just recording all that, just like documenting it in the shittiest, like 160, 240p, didn't even understand what video formats even meant at the time. It's just recording the fact that, hey, we're at this moment in time, we are recording matches of Street Fighter 4. Just throw it up, you know?
Right.
And a lot, I think there's like a couple hundred videos that are just like super arcade general casuals of just a lot of us learning how to play the game for the first time. And as from some perspective, that was August 2008, I think, or maybe 2000. No, I think it was 2008 because the game came out in 2009.
Right.
And it was like a full year almost before the game would exist in like a physical format. So it was a unique spot, and I felt like I was very grateful to be here, to have access to that. But a lot of people felt the exact same way because that arcade had like 150 people in it. Way more probably just waiting to play Street Fighter. So
Wow.
if you wanted to record matches and shit, you had to win. You had to like stay on the machine as long as possible.
Okay, so you were already at this time like invested in the pre-online or pre-YouTube era of the FGC, pre-Street Fighter 4 era. You're on the SRK forum, so like, I mean,
Sure.
by the time your first videos are going up, like you're already playing Third Strike. Well, like you know the game. Like, how did you even get to that point where you are invested in these forums, you know these names of eyes, you know the arcades? Like, how did that even become
Dang.
part of your life? Because that's such a different space to be. I got into the FGC Christmas 2009, 2010.
Sure.
So I caught the tail end of SRK, and I caught the prime of Facebook groups. To me, it was
Gotcha.
like your local Facebook group. You had to find that, and that's where you found the meetup at a dying arcade or someone's house or a LAN center. But you were there the previous generation. How did that go? How did that begin for you?
So yeah, I think my history, if we really have to like carbon date things, goes back about 10 years before that, maybe a little bit more. The awareness of the scene's existence of like, oh, there's a whole bunch of people that congregate and gather and travel and go to majors and stuff like that. I feel like my awareness of that was around 2000, 2001. But if we go back even further, the first tournament I ever started going to, and this is realizing like having no idea what a fighting game community is, right? People just have no perspective in the mid 90s, was in 1995. And I would go to a rec room in my community, which is just like billiards and video games. They just had Super Nintendos and Genesis like systems hooked up to TVs, and you could have access to the community rec room. So what happened was a ton of people would play Street Fighter there on like SNES. But when a specific game came out that I pretty much dedicated my life to when I was like 11, like 12, I dedicated my life to Killer Instinct. Like it was just every waking moment, I learned everything, every combo breaker, every combo, had the strategy guide, and I just did everything like at home. And then I went to the rec room and started playing and just molly-whopping people that were much older than me. And in that process, I went the next week and the next week, and it got bigger and it got bigger and it got bigger for an entire summer.
Wow.
It was like 8 to 10 straight weeks. Everybody would show up and place money bets, which was like candy, like literally like no exchange of cash, but like people were betting things. And in that process, like I realized that was my first fighting game community because everyone wanted to kill me. Like every single the goal, like when you are at that sort of like echelon in a local group, everybody hates you, and they just want to see you die. I remember the first time I lost was like an eruption celebration. Like, I don't know if this feels good or not. Like, this is an interesting
Wow.
feeling here. So that was like literally 1995. And I wouldn't understand, like, there's actually a big online community and all these people that congregate until around 98 when I really got into Marvel versus Capcom 1. Like, I took it really seriously and was going to arcades and going to a bunch of different arcades. Like, oh, got to go to this arcade and beat whoever's the best. Like, that was the goal. That's how we did it. And that's when I was aware of, like, this James Chen guy writes a lot of great guides. Oh, I'm reading from this about, you know, some specific player, about like Alex Valle at an Alpha 3 tournament. Like, no clue where or how, but this was before, like, this is when MIRC, like Merc, was the big communication tool, and I just barely knew how to use it. So it wasn't until my friends in the 2001 era with like CVS2 and Third Strike started introducing me to like SRK. There's like a community of people that know this shit. So that's when I made my account, was like either 2000 or 2001 on SRK.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that you still had like the core FGC experience before it was formalized, I feel like, with these online hubs, right?
Yeah.
And it's always that experience, I think, with the local communities. Like, it's always like these little king of the hills. All the stories I hear about, like, especially in California where you have access to all these arcades, is like, who is the best here? Like, I will travel to defeat the best player here. And I think that still persisted for a while into the pre-2015 era, is what I say, like the pre-rollback era. That's still, that was alive for a long time before online kind of, I don't know,
we can talk about that, almost how it's like our ever growing battle for decent online net play has effectively ruined a huge part of the fighting game community experience, because people could just stay at home and have like extremely high quality net play and play some of the best people in the world. Like, it was, the whole point was to travel so that you could effectively dominate an arcade on their home turf, like in the same way that you would go to away games and shit. Like, for sports, it was that was the whole idea, was to travel to some place and then find out who's the best and like give them to me and then go get them, you know? Like, that was the reason we went to places and did that stuff when we could even afford to drive and go there.
Right.
So nowadays it's like, it's so different. Like, dude, if you just want to become good at a fighting game, dude, you just rank up. Like, that's it. You just get into ranked and get into higher ranks, and you'll get a level. You won't become tournament viable, but because that's a completely different skill set of performing in front of people live, right? And being able to handle the pressure. But dude, like, actually getting access to high level players to become better was quite literally how the FGC was gate kept in the early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s. That's how it was gate kept.
Yeah, it was a very big different experience. I mean, like in the Street Fighter 4 era, like I would just travel to wherever the players were, because if people watching this don't understand how it was before good rollback was a standard, like you just could not play online. Or if you did, you either had a very limited subset of people you could actually play with proper delay-based like delay set, and that's limited by your geographical region, how far away you are from these players. And then even then, sometimes the netcode is still terrible, even with close geographical proximity. And so you were just so limited in what you could play. And the meta that would develop in delay-based netcode was a different game. Like, characters like in Street Fighter 4, Blanca and T-Hawk were godlike and crappy online games, because you would drop all your combos, and it was impossible to punish like Blanca Electricity or like other moves that had like frame-perfect timing to punish. And so it was like Bizarro Land playing online. And so being good at online was actually seen as like, oh, you're kind of stinky. Like, like you play online, like you're not good. Like, that's a fake.
It's a meme as well, and part of my early content, which is the term the online warrior, right? And it was a self-referential kind of like aware term that like, oh, you're kind of trashy. Like, it's like an acceptance of like the way this play is accepted, is that it's a little trashy. Let's get you beyond this, or at least find a point where you can accept that this is the way it is. It was the title of like a ton of series back in the day, but I realized that as that was going on, like a lot of the games that were online warrior associated ended up getting like much better net play. And it was like, oh no, like some of the best players just play this shit now. Like this is just the way it is. So it was watching that happen over time that like, oh, you're not just some scrubby online dude that this can't translate to an offline environment. You would be ass. I watched that change in real time. It was very bizarre.
You know what's funny is doing research to prep for this, I saw that series and I actually forgot that connotation because I didn't clock that immediately until you mentioned it right now. I was like, oh yeah, you're being self-deprecating now. Like I didn't realize that because it's lost that meaning to a degree because that was literally what people would call you if you showed up to an offline tournament and people knew you from online gameplay alone. You were called an online warrior as a way to write you off. And now like the best players are playing online all the time. And
it's the only way.
Yeah, it's the best way to get practice at that level. But like you mentioned, it kind of killing a certain aspect of the FGC. I feel like the main thing is when you had these isolated physical regions that you had to get to, that friction was like part of, I think, what got you to be so invested in what you're doing. Because like you're physically getting into a vehicle, your carpool, you're doing whatever you can to make it possible to show up to someone's garage or random hotel ballroom, a random barcade that is set up to host a random monthly or a weekly local.
You have to put an effort.
Invested. And on top of that, it provided stepping stones. Right now, in Street Fighter 6, for example, if you think you're nice, you can sign up for TNS and fight Punk, NuckleDo, sometimes Mena RD. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way for you to be in your bubble and to get an inflated sense of ego like you could in the past. Before being regionally locked, like you're in some random state, some random city, and you're the best one there. You're like, oh, we're kind of nice. We're the best. Let's go travel over here to challenge this other random state, other random city, because we think we're nicer than them. And you can think you're the best in the world in your tiny little bubble. And now with online play, you're in the ocean. You're a small fish in the ocean with the sharks all the time. And I think that removed stepping stones. And I think that's the big problem with the online-based community is we have not adapted a way to change our formats and our community engagement to provide those easy access stepping stones. Because either you're the best in the world or you're 0-2 fodder. Like it's very
that's literally
harsh.
The way it is now, man. Like it, and especially from a content creator standpoint, like I feel it more now than ever where, dude, I get like a video of someone like on the Evo channel, right? And they're interviewing like Ryan Hart or something like that, or Justin, and people start like being like, yeah, I love Justin's videos, or yeah, I know Ryan Hart is a commentator. And then you get this entire conversation that begins happening, and they start talking about their competitive history, and they're like, I never see him in top 8s. I never actually see him win that many tournaments. Thinking like within the last 15 years, like let's just like whatever. I'm not even saying this is a factuality. The conversation becomes that because it's all like a recency bias. So they start thinking about things the way they know them, and they're like, yeah, he's just a commentator. It wasn't actually that good. Yeah, actually wasn't that good. Like whole conversation wasn't actually that good. And it's like some guy comes in and like, he was like the winningest person from like the late 90s to the 2000s, like in the most variety of games, like was practically like the Sonic Fox of that generation, the Justin Wong of that generation. People are like, what the hell are you talking about? It just goes to show like the perspective has changed so much, where it's like even the highest echelon of players from like 20 to 30 years ago, the general perception is that if you're not currently placing and winning a whole bunch of shit against everybody else, you're not that good.
Right. I mean, like, that's what the unks focus on, man. That's what we're doing here, you know? Once you get a little unk, you start trying to preserve the history to keep that perspective alive. But that's
all I feel that's all I've been doing for like 10 to 15 years, bro.
I think that's a good bridge to gap for people because that perspective is really difficult to manage. And also, I think with the online competitive era, like that, it's exponentially more geared towards that recency bias because there's so many events and they happen so frequently. Like even Mena RD is washed in between his next Evo win. So like part of that I take a little seriously. Like this is something we should address in the community. And part of that I'm like, dude, people are just insane with their like demands. Like you must win every single tournament forever or else you're washed. So, you know, there's a little bit of facetious.
Dude, if I don't put up videos or stream within like a week or two, gave up and washed. Like that's what it's at. It's like I can't believe they completely stopped. Like that's crazy that they dropped off the face of the earth if you haven't streamed for 4 days or something like that.
Yeah, that's the content creation struggle for that, which you have been very consistent for nearly 2 decades at this point doing it, and there's been so many eras. Like, when you look at that, the differences in these eras, I would define one of your eras as pre 2011, right? Because you
Sure.
have this camcorder era archiving of these casuals. Then you start to actually have like this little bit of an early access, you could almost call it, being in this scene with a lot of access to Street Fighter 4 arcade cabs, which is something that not a lot of people had. So people were tuning in to see what's going on before this reaches consoles. You kept that consistency going into 2011, which is where I think you had your first channel update. Like you actually like talked on the camera, because this is all just like literally gameplay for a long time. No commentary, no nothing. Then finally you get on camera and you're like, hey, you're talking about the channel. You're like, oh, I'm doing a channel update. Here's what we're going to be doing. Like, it sounded like you started to build this consistency and this workflow and started to do a lot more like proactive content creation and something that would resemble what is modern content creation. Like, how did you even start to see that evolution and start to go in that direction when before this was still just all archival?
So I think at the time, the biggest thing that had me like jump the gap was that I had a game that I really cared about. Like around that time, Marvel versus Capcom was coming back, right? So MVC3 was either in its infancy or just like starting. And that's motivating. Like you want to make content, you want to get people into the game. The whole point, and I remember the main focus on my end at the time was to get people better at the game to level up your local communities. Like that was the initial, the goal wasn't immediately like hyper focused on viewership or views. None of this is monetized. Like as an example, I didn't make any money on the channel from like 2007 to around late 2011, like pretty much nothing. So there was no easy access to monetize things. You just did them because you wanted to do them. And because of that, at the time, Marvel was just a game that I was interested in. So I just started making videos with the idea that we need to get the people in Southern California better than those bitch ass East Coasters or something like that. Like some very fickle reason that was obviously, you know, SRK community based at the time. So yeah, like the entire point of even Online Warrior stuff, much less Assist Me, was to start to grow the amount of people that could even play these games and get them to be interested. Because that's one thing I knew, where it's like, man, if you just go up to somebody and just start teaching them, they're like, well, I don't give a shit about this. Like that's the immediate reaction for some people. If you just start trying to teach them, there's an immediate, like, unless you're already invested and interested, there's an immediate sort of negative response. So I kind of knew that's the way people acted. So I was like, oh, I'm going to focus around entertainment. And I want you to not even realize you're being taught something. Like that was the goal. The goal was like to start making content and having vocal reactions and adding commentary to things, so that people could be like aware and do things outside of just face mashing on a controller or an arcade stick, to understand what's happening, to effectively get you to fall in love with it. So you just learning is now fun.
Right. Yeah, I always talk about tricking people into learning fighting games. Like,
oh yeah,
that's my primary goal, being very clear about. I'm trying to trick you into accidentally making you learn something and liking this genre. Then you're trapped forever, right? Like
100%.
That's the ultimate goal with, I think, a lot of fighting game content creation. And an interesting perspective of what you brought up. I don't think it's as pervasive anymore, but literally fighting games were viewed as button mashing. Like that was how the genre was perceived. Like the way you play these games is you grab a controller and you mindlessly mash until you maybe accidentally trigger a super or something. You see the animation, that's your dopamine hit, and then you're done. And that was like repeated and spread by gaming journalism and like all the publications at this time. Like that's how they interacted with these games. And I think in the current era, especially with the popularization of esports and other genres being respected as like competitive endeavors, and they understand the depth of those games, I think that also bled into like the fighting game community, where now I think people outside of the genre like understand like, hey, games have depth, people compete for high stakes. This is another genre where people compete and there's depth. Like I actually think that's kind of died off. But at this time, you start working on the Assist Me series, which was a massive undertaking. The scale of the production of that is unlike anything on your channel or on YouTube in the fighting game space at all. and you're trying to convince people like, hey, have fun, laugh with me with these skits, with, you know, I'm bringing the characters to life here, and we're doing some funny things, but there's actually like these games you don't mash and you can actually do stuff and things happen.
Yeah.
Like that was just such a different type of content at the time. And I wonder, can you explain like how that came to be? Because right before this on your channel, you're still in the gameplay commentary phase.
Yeah.
From what I saw, playing arcade games and playing Modern Warfare 2 and whatever, and then there's a huge jump with Assist Me.
I think the big one, that the gameplay commentary phase literally came from Call of Duty influence, because at the time, like, most of us were playing COD games like COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2 were mostly alleviating my competitive itch for a lot of like gaming, because it was the dark times of the FGC where there was like no Capcom games and stuff like that. So these things were doing a very good job at fulfilling that competitive, I would say, desire in my brain. But I was influenced by the Call of Duty community and how they were approaching gameplay videos with commentary. So that I just did that for fighting games. I just started doing that specifically for like Street Fighter and Third Strike and a lot of this stuff around 2011. And I was like, I wonder if you can apply this style of video making for the things that I'm really into, even though I was also doing it for Call of Duty games, right? But the biggest difference was that when I remember, like, I was sitting on my Mac, like my work Mac. I was working in the industry at the time too. I was like working on a game. And I started messing with a GarageBand, and the GarageBand was just on there, and it had like a vocal setting, and I started recording into my Mac. Like, it didn't even have a microphone; it was just scream at the computer, and it will give you response. And then I found out I can record my voice on that. I could actually, like, oh, I can record commentary doing this. That's kind of cool, because this shit that you have and I have, like local home recording microphone, USB amps, as well as mixers and shit. It was like, what were you talking about? This is all otherworldly shit. What are we talking about? So having the ability just to record commentary is like, oh, so that's where that started. The commentary started for me screaming into my MacBook, and then the GarageBand thing hit, and it was like I started messing around with the voice settings, and I got something that sounded like Dr. Doom randomly, and I was like, oh, really? I wonder. Like, that was the moment of just like, man, I have the voice. I can actually do like a voice that sounds like this. That's pretty cool. So that was literally the beginning of it. And at that point, it was like, oh, I think I can do something like Angry Video Game Nerd. And I was always inspired by like the AVGN episodes where he had Bugs Bunny show up and then he beat the shit out of him.
Classic.
Or he had like Batman. He was dressed up as a shitty Batman costume. And then like a shitty Joker came over, and they just had like, it was interstitialed with gameplay throughout like a 15-minute. And I was like, yeah, like that was absolutely hugely inspirational. So I was like, I think I could do this with a tutorial for fighting games, and just have people like make a story and have it have drama and all this stuff, and just write all that out. And in the same process, like literally make a guide of how to play a character or how to play the game. So, and with my brain, the only thing that got me to like think like I want it to look good, I want it to look better than AVGN. Like I want it to be like, geez, man, like this is crazy looking. When I was inspired by like DSLR photography at the time, and DSLRs were kind of new around like early 2010s, and I would just see like, wow, the depth of field of focus. As someone that like came from like a little bit of film background, I was an animator, right? I was a 2D animator in college, so I understood how these things worked, and I was like, this looks great. Like, yeah, I want my show to look like this. So spent way too much money, way too much time like investing into that stuff at the time just to make it look as good as possible. And learned all the editing techniques, all that shit. Learned a lot through the process of making the show. That's for sure. If you go back to episode 1 and 2, oh boy. But I just had a desire for it to like look even better than the stuff that AVGN was doing, which was like the highest quality YouTube content in my personal opinion. Right. So I wanted people to be shocked that like the fighting game space could have something that could actually look and sound, and it doesn't have horrible audio or some shit. Like, yeah, I wanted to breach that echelon just personally for the sake of the community and all the people that I was playing the game with.
Yeah, I think that was definitely achieved. We didn't see anything like that in the FGC, and still don't to this day for the most part. And I think there's a different perspective on that, of how like looking back at that Assist Me era, I'm like, wow, there's so much effort put into this, and I just don't feel like YouTube rewards that to the same degree anymore. There's a bit of novelty you tapped into. Yeah.
That's the thing that I eventually had to come to the realization of, is that after we just did so many seasons and so many movies and shows and whatnot, it was just, I'm going to put an astronomical amount of effort into this that is going to effectively make my core audience very happy. Like the amount of people that have been around here for a long time, very happy. The same thing even happened going back to 2020 with our Ultimate Marvel 3, like live action Assist Me. It was like, oh, we were going to do a live tournament and Assist Me episode together at the same time. So even with that consideration, I knew that like this is going to do well, but it's like, it's not going to bridge any gaps like the way that it used to. Unfortunately, like doing this is mostly for me and the people that like it, because it just does not reach an algorithm anymore that makes any sense, which is really unfortunate. It's rough. Doesn't mean that everyone always asks, are you done doing it? I'm never going to write myself off of doing it. It's just, there needs to be a really good idea. Like there just has to be, we have to put that on film. That's such a cool idea that like we have to put that into like a sketch or a tutorial or something, you know?
Right. And I think there's a huge opportunity cost as well. I mean, I feel like the modern content creation meta, especially like you do live streaming as well. I mean, I like live streaming, but I feel like there's a bit of a poison to it where it's like, you need to be live. You need to be sitting in front of your camera, streaming X number of hours every day. And therefore you can't afford the opportunity cost of being offline, writing, scripting, producing, recording, editing. Like that shit takes a lot of time and effort. And then the amount of views you get, you might 2x, 3x a typical low effort, typical stream to YouTube pipeline video. But then you actually spent 2 weeks off stream and you had none of the streams and none of the subsequent content produced from that streams. And so therefore you went backwards in 2 weeks of labor to get like 2 days worth of content throughput with that one 100%. Video. And I feel like YouTube just doesn't reward that like they used to. Like in that era where you were early to this, the production value alone was enough to be like, holy shit, like this is for free on YouTube. And that novelty, I think, is like just lost to this era. One thing about the Assist Me series, I was wondering, and maybe what helped you produce it as well, was that actually partnered with Capcom at the time? I didn't get a clear understanding of like the relationship with Capcom, and even you had, what was it, VidThru? There was a whole VidThru era. I'm wondering like how that came to be. Like this is like almost like becoming a job or a potential income stream in this era, when before that didn't exist.
So yeah, right around 2010, 2011. We'll start with the VidThru part. I didn't really know people at like Capcom directly, but I was always in association with a lot of them, like Seth and those folks, because I was an industry guy. I worked on a game for like several years, a virtual world game, and I would always be going to like E3 and Comic-Con and having full access and talking to these dudes. If anything, I was in a spot where I was like able to communicate to Capcom folks because I was always the FGC guy that was inside, like that could go to industry events because most FGC couldn't. That's where I would always talk to Keats. Keats would always be an industry guy because he wrote for SRK. So I was connected to Capcom, but not officially a part of anything. The VidThru part was like very early multi-channel network type of shit when it was just Machinima for like the longest period of time. Machinima was the only thing that really existed. But VidThru was a small sort of group, and the whole point was to get you to watch videos on YouTube, but also to go to their website. They didn't have like any money. It was like the very early concept. I ended up making about $90, I think, in totality for like a year's worth of work. There was always the potential of this blowing up or something like that. You know what I mean? But that was definitely the idea of like, even when the money was very small, it's like, wow, I'm actually earning some sort of revenue from like making a video. Like that was just inconceivable. Like you can play video games and make this stuff before the term content even existed, and actually produce revenue of some kind. But that wasn't until like, I'd say like early 2011, mid 2011. Like Machinima hit me up, and I got one of their early contract agreements that guaranteed CPM like $2 per every 1,000 views. And it was, there was no changing ad rates, anything like that. That didn't even exist. It was $2 for every 1,000 views. And then late 2011, Capcom hits me up specifically. Seth Killian sends me an email, and this is around September. I get laid off from my job, right around in the same week. I get laid off.
Wow.
And Capcom hits me up about doing an official Assist Me series for Ultimate Marvel 3. And that's the first time where I work with characters like Matt Dahlgren, Andrew Schnorr at Capcom, which were the big, like, sort of Capcom alumni at the time, Seth Killian. And the relationship with Marvel and how this is going to get accepted through Marvel. Like, how are they going to be cool with it? They were very weird with a lot of shit at the time because this was pre-big MCU. This was when Captain America 1 was coming out. So it was interesting. It was fascinating. I understood how a lot of things actually work instead of from like a fan perspective, like an outsider's perspective, like, oh, this is how it actually works. So we had to produce like a 5-episode show, like very fast. But the first time that would happen, like officially working with Capcom, was that show. And then subsequently for like years later, going all the way to 2014, I would go to places and make documentaries for them, for their DuckTales game that came out, for the Strider game that came out. I would work on several Assist Me shorts for them for all Marvel vs. Capcom Origins. It was like an ever-growing thing where we just sort of had like a budget from them to make stuff. But if we want to talk about like, so how lucrative was that? The budget we had for, I think, the entire 5-episode series of Ultimate Assist Me was about $5,000. So we had to produce 5 episodes at $5,000. Once things were done at the end of like 3 months of working, I got about $500.
Right.
And that was about it. So I was like laid off. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if this is gonna work out, boy. Like, this is pretty rough.
Interesting. But I'm assuming from that timeline, you get laid off. I mean, you make only 500 after all this work. I mean, that's probably even less when you consider the amount of labor you're putting in, right?
Sure.
But does this mark like your transition to start investigating this content creation lifestyle further? I mean, that's a common theme I've seen with doing a lot of these interviews. Is like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? Like, you prepared for this moment. You're ahead of the curve in terms of producing content, getting familiar with YouTube, and also industry connections. You worked in animation in the industry a little bit. You're at E3.
Sure.
And you're also like dabbling in other games. Call of Duty, those like your random Call of Duty videos, like first nuke on this map is taken off. Like, you have these little like hits in between. Then you have Assist Me, which is like, I think, your first like big series hit. That all came together in that moment where you're like, okay, I got actually paid to do something. Are you are looking to continue in that direction to see where it goes? Or like, how are you thinking about like career wise, like 2011, 2013? Like, are you just riding it out as long as you can before trying to get a more stable 9-to-5 type of job? Like, what are you thinking at this time?
At that point, it was a full commit situation. And in the late 2011 specifically, late 2011, right? Like, all the preparation content leading up to a big game that we're all excited about. Like, I felt like my channel was the mecca for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It was like the lead up to excitement and build up of that. So I was making content leading up to it, talking about trailers, like creating the process of like, you know, talking to, it wasn't even a camera yet, just talking to my MacBook and making some sort of video editing process where I can make multiple videos a day that people would want to watch. So yeah, I would have to be making this show in the background, knowing that I want to build an audience of people that like just give a shit. Like, do they care? Because in the future, I know there's going to be other games and other things that come out that I will also care about. But I kind of like, I don't think it happened. It was in the process where I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this forever. Like, I'm not going to be able to make Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 content forever. I'm not Tampa Never Sleeps. So the idea was that I would be able to grow an audience, like an established, like it was like 20,000 subs or something like that of people that wanted to watch. But new games are always going to come out. Like, and I do like new games to a certain degree. So I'll start making videos around Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur 5 was relatively the new, fresh thing. I started like playing other games like around that time frame, like some Resident Evil things. But yes, that what you're asking is around that time frame, it was a full commitment. Wow. And would follow with pretty much a year to 2 years of me making a quarter as much money that I'd made at my job to about half as much. until it
Okay.
started going like, oh, now I'm making as much as I was making working like in 2014 and 2015. Now I'm making more and more and more. Yeah, like that period of time is like me and my wife like working like crazy to just pay bills, to just
Right.
support ourselves in any way, you know?
And I'm guessing you have no overhead as well for the most part. Like you're doing all the editing yourself. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
team in this operation really. It's just you
No,
trying to get
it was
the
all me.
workflow going. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
tough.
even at the time when people were helping out and stuff, it was just like friends coming over to help out, and I would pay them when we would get paid. Like when it would be an actual gig, there would be
Right.
no guarantee on revenue, because even when it was like we were doing this Assist Me stuff and it was not sponsored, but like paid to make. I guess it would be sponsored now because we were just contracted.
Right.
Those Assist Me videos would make like on at most $300. So you get like 200 to 300 bucks maybe per video. I mean, that was like, wow, that's insane. This is so cool that we're making this money. But is it even paying for the lighting bulbs? Like the hot ass light bulbs that are lighting the rooms that would go out like crazy. Like I would spend $100 on light bulbs every other half month because we were lighting so much shit. So it was like, it barely even paid for the show itself, but it was like we were growing an audience, and that's all that really mattered to me.
Yeah. I think that built the audience, built credibility. Like I think also having those like key moments where you had really highly produced content lets you kind of do the more casual stuff in between as well. Like it bridges that gap as well. Like your audience will stick around who came in for Assist Me, then you're always there in the sub inbox, which actually was the primary way people got delivered content back then. So you created a workflow for a while that carried you through for a few years. And then I think leading up out of this era, from my observation, would be like Killer Instinct comes up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, new big game you competed in. That was your first FGC experience, apparently. Like that was your game. When is the first time you hear about KI, a new KI in any form?
So the first actual reveal was like the E3 that it happened on, which was like, and I hate to mention it because I've also contributed towards the YouTube slop era, but I started doing reaction videos right around early 2013 to like the first one was a very disappointing Xbox event, and it was a disappointing reaction that Xbox was focusing so hard on TV. So I just was like, let me just record myself watching this so I can like cut it up later and talk over it. And then I had like reactions to what was happening, like, oh God, you guys are so dumb, like this kind of like feeling reaction. And the only reaction videos that existed at the time was this Reacts channel, where it's like grandpa reacts to Naruto. Like, and they would sit people in a room and they would have to like be forced to watch stuff and then talk about it. Like get kids to listen to, I don't know, like, you know, the Beatles or something like that. So there was a specific Reacts channel, and I was like, what if I just record myself reacting to things? And then KI happens. And then the KI reaction video sort of like blows up because it was like, oh yeah, I love this. Like this is actually coming back. But the first inkling of KI was technically like 2012. There was like somebody filled a copyright for Killer Instinct again at Microsoft. So I was like, oh God. So I made a video about that. Like somebody actually gives a shit about Microsoft, KI at Microsoft. That's so cool. Let's play KI for a couple weeks. So we made Killer Instinct videos with friends around that time frame. So that was like the first inkling that it could happen. But then the actual reveal was that big Killer Instinct reaction video.
Okay, I see. And yeah, that React history is pretty funny too. Like they were trying to trademark the word React.
Yeah.
Man, imagine if they got
that. I was like, oh shit, they do not like what I'm doing. Or at that point, several other people had been doing up to like 2015. Yeah, they did not like it.
Right. Yeah. I always think back to the React history. It's so funny because there was that one other YouTube channel where there was a guy who would just be in the corner smiling. It was like a big drama for a long time.
Yeah.
He just play everybody else's YouTube videos, just like, wow, like no
I
other.
Think that might be Tyrone.
Yeah, I think it might have been Tyrone. Yeah, that used to be a big drama thing back in the day that everyone critiqued, and now reactions are just like the meta. But to be fair, I think people do add a lot more transformative content to the reaction. I think there's a bit more awareness of that. But that used to be controversial.
Because reactions like changed. Like it wasn't just, to me, it was only reacting to things that were being provided by companies and shit, like announcements about hardware or games or things like that. That's what you would react to because it's actually something new.
Right.
But reacts sort of changed to things in the COVID era with a lot of people that were like perma streaming. So they just started watching like TV and YouTube videos, bro. They just started like watching other people's content on
Master
their
Chef
channels
and like
like just
syndicated
constantly.
TV shows.
Yeah. So it was like you're just like vibing with them, and and like almost like a Mystery Science Theater 3000, but for like YouTube videos or some shit.
Right.
So that's where reactions eventually went, where there was I understandably think a lot of pushback, where it's like, yeah, you can't just like make your content other people's full ass videos like all the time. Like at least like ask them or shout them out or like give reference to, or, you know, that kind of stuff. And even when I do that, like I usually ask the person that is making this stuff, is this cool? Can I make a video about this and talk a lot over it at the same time? So yeah, I think I push back on all that still. Like that still sets me a little wrong of just only doing like 8 hours of just watching other people's shit. Like, dude, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think it hurts the creator economy where it's like, what is the incentive on top of all the stuff we talked about before of like the risk of investing in high production quality content? What is the incentive when whoever giant streamer can just watch what you're doing, clip it up, get 5 times the viewership, suck up all the recommendation spots in the 100%. Algorithm, and like, you know, kind of kill your channel on the vine. So,
but now that's normal. Now that's like fully accepted in the same way that normal reactions to just trailers and shit was kind of frowned upon as lazy content back in the 2010 era was unaccepted. It became accepted around the end of the 2010 era, beginning of 2020s. This new reaction to stuff is bullshit. Now it's just normal. Now it's just the way things are.
To me, the trailer ones is the ones that make the most sense because I think just even from an ethical perspective, it's like the companies aren't trying to make ad revenue on the trailer. They want this to propagate.
To buy a product.
It's an advertisement. You're advertising their advertisement.
Exactly. Like all I'm doing is like, all it's doing is helping potentially this game get sold or not sold. Like that's kind of where it boils down. Like they're putting this out there for you to invest in something, dude. Right. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to engage with it in the way that me as a consumer would, and also share my thoughts about this product. You know, does this trailer hit or does it not hit? Like, yeah, from an ethical standpoint, that makes perfect sense. But when it's like, yeah, this is somebody else's livelihood that I'm just going to watch their entire videography like in one stream, you know?
Right. And take their thumbnail, then put your face on it. And then that one gets 10 times the clicks. Yeah. It's definitely something I keep in mind as well. I've done a few reaction stuff and I'm like, if I'm going to do something where someone made effort on it, I'm going to ask them first. But in general, I try to like pull away from that because I do see that there's issues with it. But it's funny you mentioned the audience critiquing that as well, like them saying, oh, doing trailer reactions is lazy content. And I think that brings up an interesting point of the divide between influencer and content creator, right? And I know I think you've been on record a little bit before about not being fond of the influencer term, and I kind of hate it too because like you've seen the degeneracy that having the goal of influence without having like a core passion or anything to say, really, it leads you to like, you know, live stream you crashing your Bugatti on the highway. You know what I mean? Like that's you're just
going
goal.
For views.
Yeah, anything for views, no goal, and so it's pure degeneracy. But I think the reaction to trailers that leads into like the influencer realm. Like I think there was a divide where people started to notice this shift between content creation and influencer. Yeah, and I wonder how you feel about that, because I feel like outside looking in, I would, you know, say you're a little bit more the influencer side these days, right? Like Assist Me, it's a bit more content creation, and then you know, doing the more discussion about topical events and things going on in the scene, discussing current events and finding news. That's a little bit more influencer. And how do you feel about that split or that direction you've gone in?
It wasn't a specific choice. I think the idea going even back to the Assist Me stuff was that the Assist Me stuff was good and it fulfilled my core audience. It wasn't financially really beneficial in any way, but it was allowing me to create other stuff in between. The stuff in between ended up doing well, like the Online Warrior series, me making like multi-part content around Injustice 1, like Week of Characters. These things would in turn get as much viewership as Assist Me episodes, and they would hit and get sent to the algorithm and whatever at the time existed. To me, it was like, Yeah, so the money I would end up actually earning, the livelihood I would earning of all the middle videos, the stuff that was in between all this, of the general gameplay things, are actually what kept me afloat. Like that was what allowed me to even pursue and do stuff and continue doing stuff. It was that not just the Assist Me episodes, just the stuff in between. And the stuff in between was like literal, not evergreen, but things that are specifically relevant. Like you have to find a way to stay like relevant in some way. And the good thing is that there's always going to be news. There's always going to be something to talk about. Not like, you know, a sub just exploded on its way to the Titanic. Like, no. Like, Ono is saying this. Harada is saying this. Like specifically within this bubble that we have, and discussing like what that means, what it could mean. And yeah, a lot of that could get translated to more influential sort of things. It's also providing opinions about that and why I feel that is the why this is a good decision, why this is a bad decision. And yeah, that's just the way like content is now. And that is the relationship with like streaming and like the content creation side of it, where it's like, yeah, sometimes when you're on stream, you go into YouTube mode where it's like, this is going to make it into a video. It's time to like begin it here and like end it there, like sort of situation. Without, I don't specifically say it, but it's like the chat picks up on it. It's like, oh, this is a YouTube video, like that kind of thing. And yeah, that can come across as very like influencer like, but that was the stuff that was always in between. And to be honest, I just started focusing on the in between stuff like permanently, just because it was the most beneficial. It was the most time efficient. It still takes a shit ton of time. It still took a lot of effort to like produce all of that and get it to a point where it makes sense in video format. But those were the things that like was it. Brian, do you remember an era of content creation where people would criticize others, if not you or anybody else, that, oh, this is just pulled from a stream, this is trash?
Yes.
Like
that
this is
exists,
like we remember that.
Yeah.
Like that was a thing for a long time. Like this isn't just a YouTube video. Like this is specifically just stream footage, like repurposed for YouTube. This is actual trash. Like, oh wow. And I picked up on early on that like, no, this just makes sense. Like this is just like the way to do things. I'm going to fight against this a bit, where it's like not everybody watches a stream, dude. Like I have much more people that are on the YouTube side and the stream side. And then I understood, dude, this YouTube and Twitch audience does not do this. Like very small portions actually cross over. So it's like, I am missing, like most of the time I'm streaming, most people are just missing the things I'm saying or doing. They just have no idea. So it's like, I started realizing, oh, that saturation can actually be very beneficial. And that was around like 2015-ish. And even at that point, I was still doing multi-recordings of gameplay. I was still recording the gameplay here and adding the commentary on top of it. So it wasn't just stream quality, it was higher quality. Like, but most things were just from streams. Like all of the Boss Rage series started from like, let me just do this on stream because it would be fun, you know? So yeah, like I think that influencer relationship of like influencer content and like content became sort of like separated, but I never thought of it that way, where it's like, yeah, more things are influencer based because it's conversational, you know?
Yeah, it's the casual allure, I think, of it all, because now that I'm trying to do the actual produced content and scripted
stuff.
Yeah, like everything recorded off stream, scripted, you know, that you lose that sort of candor, that sort of conversational tone versus when you just do things live on stream. And I think there's a big
we're in a good
value
spot right now where scripted is coming back. Like there's a while where like video essays and scripted primo shit. Like that was early 2010s, like mid 2010s YouTube primo shit. And then halfway through the 2010s, stream content started blowing up. And then now it's come back around where like the scripted content is making it to the top of the algorithm even more.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe I'm catching the right way. We'll see. For me, it was more like just trying to fulfill a creative role, because that stigma of like, oh, this is from stream, this is trash. I think that still persists to a smaller percentage of the audience. But I've always, because all my content has always been from stream to YouTube. Aside from like the pre-stream era, I had a small time. So I've felt that bias for years. Even when, you know, my editor is doing an amazing job, we plan things for stream, whatever. There's a difference between like raw, like this was unplanned on stream, suddenly it's a YouTube video, versus this is planned for stream, structured, producing a YouTube video from stream footage. But that stigma is always there, right? It's always like, oh, this is a little rough around the edges. It's not planned, the conversation. Some scripting could have smoothed this out. And so I've been interested in tackling that.
It's a criticism from people that also just like don't know. Like they're watching a conversational piece that's coming from a stream, and like that conversation was 3 hours long, and they're watching a 15-minute video, and they're like, "This is the same thing." And it's like, bro, no, like this is a heavily edited video,
Yeah.
like made to specifically do one thing and send one message.
Yeah, that editing process is insane. To condense things, I think that's the hardest thing in editing. To condense a stream into something digestible for a YouTube video, that is so difficult, and that's why now I pay editors to do that for me.
Yep. I call
I never want to deal with that again.
I call it compilation editing.
Yes.
And it's because it just takes so much time to like pass that project on to somebody else that doesn't know what happened over the span of 4 hours. So when you're there, you know what to hit. Like, oh, this happened around here. That was good. Sweet spot. But when you don't know, it's like, oh God, like you have to watch this whole thing and then go back again and watch it again.
Yeah, I'll make timestamps. That's when a stream ends, I'm like, holy crap, something happened here, and I want this to make it to YouTube. I'll just, as soon as I close the stream, I'll just start like marking timestamps going through the VOD to at least like hit it while it's fresh. Because otherwise,
that's some good shit.
It's lost forever. Like it's gone.
Yep.
Like if you didn't mark that live, you've lost those juicy moments, and that's where like I think the scripted stuff comes into play. Like you can achieve more of doing that.
Damn, I need to do that.
I would love to see a little bit of a produced Max video. I kind of miss some of those longer, more in-depth videos. I'm not gonna lie. I love the influencer stuff.
I think to a degree, like even some of the stuff like boss rages, which are based on like stream content, which is effectively like a game with a story being told, with a story like a beginning, a middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like fun to do, but I also did like the majority of them that I wanted to. And that's kind of like the tough thing of being in a space for so long that covers a very, the shit we do is very niche. Like just to throw it out there, like the amount of people that we're appealing towards is significantly bigger than it ever has been. And also still has not grown to a point that matches the rest of the industry that much. Right. So it's like, yeah, the rest of the industry has gotten this big and that more massive, Fortnite and Minecraft and all this stuff. But like in the comparison of the fighting game space, it's like they increased 100-fold and we increased like 3-fold. Like, and in some places went back and regressed. So we're appealing towards a very like specific audience of folks. And I have found like the way that you have to remain is just to be relevant. Like you have to stay like relevant with the times. I don't know how I've maintained relevancy for like 15 years. But the only thing I can say is that I have actively thought every single time I turn on a stream, if I'm going to stream today, what is happening? Like what am I going to do?
Right.
Why are people even going to watch this? Like the same thing for a video. Why do people give a shit? Like, is there a reason to click on this video? So there is always that level of like audience, I'd say personification, where I put myself in my audience's head constantly and try to be like, okay, so what would they like to see? Like, what do I want to do? What do they want to see? And can I find a balance between that? Can I find like a nice hook? I call them gimmicks. Do I have like a stream gimmick today? You know, that'll get people to tune in like, God damn, what's Max doing? Why is he playing that? What is he doing? Which also led, you know, over time to me playing things that weren't just like only fighting games around that mid 2010 era of just like trying to create an audience of folks that just want to watch and then getting them into fighting games as a byproduct.
Right. I was going to say, like, you know, you have managed to stay relevant for so long and at such a scale far beyond what most people or any person, I think, in the fighting game content creation space has reached. And I think a large part of that, from my perspective, is you were not just in our bubble this whole time.
Yes.
Like you've shared your love for games as a whole and maintained that connection, I think, to the entire industry and multiple genres. And it's gotten to the point where you can play Mario 64 and put a 10-hour video on your channel and it actually will like get a lot of views. It's like, holy crap, Max is playing a classic that so many of us love and influence this whole space. I want to see that. And I'm just curious how you thought about bridging that gap and maintaining that over the years, because I feel like it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to be, for the average FGC influencer content creator,
multiple things
to bridge that gap. Like I played Elden Ring once on stream and I got some viewers and I was like, holy shit, I made it. You know, because I remember in the past, if I swapped a different game, I got 1/100th the viewership. And so like, how did you go about bridging that gap and keeping that alive? And what's the effects you've seen on your content because of that?
So the big first influence was that like Game Grumps began existing around 2012, and that was like the first actual like really big like let's play thing that caught on. So that's where Yo Video Games was born, where it was just like me and Simmons, who plays Dr. Doom, right? We were like, we can make a show like this. I think we could do this. And we started doing it like from a very early standpoint to pretty big success. It was like, oh yeah, this side channel that I'm making videos for, which is just like general playthroughs split up to 15-minute videos because that was the limit back in the day. Was like, oh yeah, like the YouTube is like favoring this right now, and it's working out pretty good. But the realization I had of just like that was still disconnected. It was like a secondary channel thing where if you just want more of me or more of us, you can go over here for it. But the part where it was like getting my audience connected was when I had like a realization. I was like, okay, so I have like a large Capcom fan base naturally, right? From Street Fighter adjacent stuff and Marvel vs. Capcom adjacent stuff. And this shit is not popping off. Like this is like the worst possible era to be a Capcom fan, my dude. Like the waiting until Street Fighter 5 and then the right after Street Fighter 5, brutal. Like it was a brutal time to just be making exclusively like poor ass excellent adventure guys like went into the ether type of shit, and they were the heads of it. Like it was rough. So I felt like I had all the weights on my ankles and shit before like being free, because this was what I did, you know, and it was so specifically limiting because everything around that space was ass. So I started thinking like, I think people that are into Capcom fighting games also like Resident Evil. I think they also like Devil May Cry. I think they're also into these somewhat actiony games that was also really into. And I'm like, I wonder if I can play these and people will like give a shit in any way. And yeah, like that was around like the streaming era. I started also streaming like Resident Evil playthroughs, and they just did super good. Like this is Twitch 2014, you know? And they just did really good. So I made compilations of those. They went up on the channel. They're terrible in hindsight. I hate my old content, by the way. Like all of my old content, I severely dislike it. But at the same point, I realized I bridged a gap, which is the audience shared this like connective tissue to these things where it's like, okay. So then I just started applying that to other stuff and like leaning in this direction, trying this, trying that. Is it interesting to watch somebody that has no clue about this really popular thing try it for the first time? I'm like, yeah, I like watching that. I like watching people like, you know, hearing their impressions of my favorite movie, and they just never watched it and they get to experience it for the first time. I'm like, that's a novel thing, dude. So yeah, I was like, there's a lot of shit I haven't played before that I can play. Souls games, like yada, yada, yada. And there was the conditioning of the audience, because like the entire goal, I mean, there was a hidden agenda the entire time, was that I'm going to make you a fighting game player. And that's kind of what happened, where it's like, even through Final Fantasy and whatnot, I've introduced a lot of people to like the FGC and what fighting games are by just getting them to listen to this too. You know, check out this as well.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how you have that pool now, like completely outside the FGC. So many people now know what a fighting game is because you played Final Fantasy or you played whatever, the latest Call of Duty, whatever game you played outside the sphere that pulled someone into your audience. And then you always bring it back to fighting games. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, like, why? You know what I mean? Like, you could do so much content outside the fighting game space that objectively performs way better. I mean, I would say you probably have a lot of monetary incentive to just jump ship, but you always bring it back.
Yeah, I did at some point. Like there was a portion where I was like committed to being like a full Call of Duty guy. The problem is that even that shit, like the ship had sailed, that its existence for so long just would have led to a bunch of things that meandering that pissed me off about it. Whereas like, oh, now this game is really not hitting. Like it hit its like early Street Fighter 5 era where it's like, this shit sucks, dude. Like what is going on? So even that was like, I can't sit here and just make content around something I don't like. Like I can't do that. So there was a realization where it's like, I enjoy playing fighting games, like just in general. Like this is my favorite genre. It's what I get the most excitement out of. Like you can have anything that's being announced, but if you announce like, you know, this is all these characters from this franchise you love, but it's a fighting game, it's like, oh shit, dude, like this is the biggest thing this is the best thing it possibly could be in my eyes. So to me, that was like always the goal. Where the reason I think the genre is the best is that you have the most direct capability and control of the characters you love. Like, you're not limited and bound by the game. You're not limited and bound by the beginning and middle and end of a game. You can speed run it and stuff like that. But in a fighting game, your expertise with like a character that you love will go forever. Period. So if you're a melee player and you just love Jigglypuff or some shit, that can take you forever. And you can always be like a main of that throughout several games or the one game or whatever. And I think that's super captivating, where it's like, yeah, like you just have this thing that you love about it so much, and then you can just commit forever. So that's why fighting games would always get the topper echelon for me, because that's just the way my brain works. My brain is just conditioned in a way where it's like, oh, the best genre of video game is fighting games. So let's just get the thing we like in a fighting game in some way, you know?
That's interesting, because you said you can't make content about something you don't like. Maybe for you, that's like your own personal taste. But, you know, a lot of people love making videos only about shit that they hate. And I think a lot of people love getting sucked into YouTube algorithms where they click on vaguely rage baity videos all the time. And I think there's entire genres, and I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks of everything on social media being algorithmically driven, is that fear and anger response is so powerful, and it permeates through so much of our social media, and it's almost impossible. You can get sucked into it if you're not careful, like just by accident. And people love making rage baity videos about complaining about fighting games, the death of fighting games, you know, especially since a lot of the audience and content creators and players skew older. As you get older, things are different, so therefore they're bad.
Yeah.
You could have gone down that path, right? What do you think about this, and how do you stay away from it? Or how do you, like, what is your perspective on that side of fighting and content creation?
Yeah. And I think I dabbled in it a little bit, of just like, look at this outrageous, this was like 10 plus years ago. Look at this outrageous moment, you know, and let's talk about how abhorrent it is, or something like that. Like in the fighting game space, like for example, make a video about like a collusion, like an obvious collusion moment in a tournament or something like that. Not like a general, how does collusion, how did a collusion affect fighting game tournaments in the early 2010s, which was like, that was everything. Like literally every tournament, they split the pot. But I found it not to be fascinating. I think when you get an audience in general, my goal is for this shit to get better, and not to specifically be mad at the way it is. It's like, the reason that the way it is because this and this, right? And then it's just said, and like, yeah, I still like this aspect of it. It isn't coming from a criticism of, man, this shit sucks, and the people that make it are stupid, and let me make that the focus of my content for, like, you know, an entire year around one game specifically. The whole goal is, I want it to be better. Like, no, I want to like this game. I don't want to sit here and just be upset by it and hate the way every aspect of it is. I want it to fit into a space that works, which is the way Street Fighter V went. Like, and Street Fighter V, I was the biggest Capcom hater you could possibly imagine, according to the majority of the community, of like, why does Max hate Street Fighter so much? And people are like, dude, that's his whole thing. Like, what the fuck? Like, but SF5 just wasn't doing it for me, for obvious the reasons that was presented at the first couple years of the game. And I would still play it and hope that it would get better. And it just took a long time for it to eventually get to like a season 4, season 5, where it was like, oh, this game's kind of cool. Like, oh shit, it's way better now. I think that acknowledgement is more fascinating to me. I like the growth, seeing like how a game can grow and find its audience and get better and learn from mistakes. Because I learned that like developers accepting criticism is a weird thing, because they're also people. So when you make content, you have to be like very specific about what you do, because most of the time, if in the same way that we make content and we see people react to our shit, you get people that are just purely negative, and you're like, damn, just a hater. I will never get them on my side. I can write that bitch a check for $1,000. Their opinion would not change. So in the same way, developers look at the big haterade content for a lot of games and go like, that's not our core audience. That message doesn't actually matter. Like, we don't need to appeal towards them. But if you're like, hey, this game has this that are great, and it's really good, and it's running good, but this and this and this and this and this, these are big ass problems. So finding that criticism middle ground became really important to me, which is why, like, my relationship with devs now, whenever I run into them, they're like, be honest. Like, don't like they want to hear what I have to say because they know I like it. They know I want to like it. What is stopping you from liking this type shit? And that usually lines up with like the general waft, like the funk that's going on in the community. So I really didn't buy into the rage baity stuff just because it didn't match the way I felt. And personally speaking, I think if you make rage bait content, you're creating an audience that feeds into a cycle that is just getting mad at people or things. And eventually they will get mad at you. It happens every single time. Like it takes longer for some for that to eventually happen, but every single time I watch those audiences over the span of doing this for a very long time turn on those people and then they're just gone. Like they just don't exist anymore. It's like, wow, that's crazy, or fall into some crazy drama. So I just don't want to feed into that. Like I want to do this shit till like I'm 60 or some shit, dude. Like I don't want to stop now. Like I enjoy doing this. I don't want to threaten it in some way by creating an audience that is just going to be nothing but really critical of everything you said or everything you do.
Yeah, I think that's it's very difficult as well. Like for someone like myself who's like primarily focused on Street Fighter and Street Fighter 6, right? When you're in the competitive scene as well, which kind of requires you to focus on one game. I've seen that firsthand where it's difficult to steer away from that, especially when I think on the competitive side, like people are gonna get salty and pissed, and like that's just like part of the fun, I think, and part of the journey. And but I've noticed like people latching onto that and like trying to egg in that direction, even in my own content and like my own streams or whatever. And I'm like, oh, dude, I can't. I can't associate with you. Like we can talk shit about our games we play a little bit, but at the end of the day, like, hey, we have to zoom out. Like, I'm here because I like whatever fighting game I'm playing, and I might be pissed in the moment, whatever, man. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, people get salty when they care about, they hit the wall on a game. I always call it the wall. That's my theory, right? When you're playing a new fighting game, I think it's the easiest thing in the world to have fun. Like, new fighting games are great. That discovery period, that dopamine hit.
It's my favorite spot. Yeah,
it's amazing, and the dopamine hits are frequent and they come hard. And then you have all this new discovery. You're learning with the community, and then you get to the point where you have more investment in the game, and suddenly those losses. They mean a little bit more. They aren't like, oh, I don't know anything that's going on. It's like, no, I know what's going on now. And now I care if I win or lose. And I call that the wall.
As someone that hovers around like a ton of fighting games, right? And has the ones that I obviously like more than others. That wall comes at a point where in a lot of modern fighting games are designed to play like a certain way. And then you're playing it the way you feel like it is designed to be played, but you're not winning. And you're like, oh, I don't know where I can directly improve. Like my combos are the combos that all the pros are doing. I'm landing this in a way that's like, my gameplay looks like some of the best players, but I'm just not winning. So it's like that, man, then you have to actually get down to like nitty gritty decision-making awareness, like information, like all that kind of stuff becomes, oh, here's the problem with all that shit. You don't see it. You don't see their thought process. Like you don't see matchup knowledge. Like to a degree you do once you get really familiarized with the game, but like you have to teach people that that's what's going on here. Minutia details in like, drive gauge management, especially in Street Fighter 6, which make or break certain matches. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't like from a surface level and even from like a median level perspective of somebody that's trying to rank up, it's like, so how do I get to the point where I get better at that? And it's just like, you just got to play, my dude. Like, you just have to really play the fuck out of the game. And it's like, so, but how much different does your gameplay look at that point? Well, it might not look a ton different, but you're winning. Like, you're definitely going to be winning more.
Yeah, I think that's a big consequence of also like removing input buffers from especially the Street Fighter series. I look at that as the most fundamental change in how these games operate, because now it's all about information and decision making from Street Fighter 5 to Street Fighter 6 forward. And before in Street Fighter 4, like if you landed your combos, like you're the greatest player of all time. Like you can visually tell that someone is significantly better.
This guy's a god. Yeah.
This guy lands a hit confirms it, does a combo into Oki. Like if you had that flowchart complete, like you are top 10%, top 5% of the player base immediately. Whereas in 5 and 6, it's like you are the average player. Everyone does this, and your risk reward decision making on these Oki situations is what makes or breaks whether you actually succeed or not. And
for sure,
it cannot be overstated. I feel like the execution input buffer is the number one change, at least for the Street Fighter series of all time, that divides the 4 to 5 era.
You want to you want to hear, and here's an overall perspective, because I've been doing this for so long. Like, viewership and audience for fighting games, for general gameplay and all that kind of stuff, is just kind of down, right?
Mhm.
Like, the amount of people that are interested and invested in watching people play the game, even at folks that are providing the highest caliber of content from the highest level of players, their viewership will be necessarily good, but not like reflective of something that we would see way, way, way back when. It's a saturation issue, don't get me wrong. There's just so many more people that are better at the game and so much more content available now. But I think it also boils down to, and this is coming directly from me having interactions of all levels of the community, of people that are the most ultra casual, to the people that are invested and know how this stuff works, to the people that are actually good. From point A to point B, one end of the spectrum of being mega casual all the way to the other, you know what all of them don't like? Seeing the same thing happen over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like seeing the same interaction situation happening over and over again. Above that level, where it's like high level players and you get to like this player above, dude, these guys over here love that shit because it's controlled. Like, it's this vortex that leads into this every single time. It is a controlled Oki, it is a controlled situation. I am in control. It's why they hate Street Fighter 6, because 6 is like chaos. It's like at close range, it's this RPS decision that you just have to accept is going to fucking happen. You have to make the read, you know? But all, like, the very vast majority of folks that watch this shit, older games are appealing because you weren't watching a lot of the exact same situation, the exact character playing the exact way, doing the exact thing that was designed and intended over and over and over and over again.
Right.
It's also a reason why, like, just as a general perspective, the game's hated right now. But dude, there's a lot of like small Tekken gameplay channels that are popping off right now. It's crazy. Zero commentary, just them playing the character in a wild fucking way. And it's like, wow, like, look at this guy. He's doing this crazy shit with this character. Are they the best in the world? No, but look at the way they're playing this shit. Look at that. Like, this, I want to play like that. That looks fun, dude. I watch that because it's like, oh, they're not doing the tried and true, exact, normal, optimized way of playing the game, which boils down to the same situation over and over again.
Right. Yeah, I think a game like Tekken can go into its bag a little bit more when you have 100 plus moves per character and
Exactly.
all these legacy strings and all that, where I feel like Street Fighter is definitely a lot more system mechanic and streamlined. And I do feel a little bit of viewership fatigue myself, where it's like most people are doing the same combos at most levels of gameplay. And then I think the top 0.01%, you're like, oh shit, like they're doing things that I don't see anybody do. And that's like, I'm talking about like a Lishar, a Mena RD. You know what I mean? Like the top 5
really
players
trying
on the
to
planets.
Exactly. They're
So
really trying to like reach into their bag of tricks and do things that like you're not going to be ready for. And it's like,
Right.
wow, does the game like incentivize that very much? And will it be that good for that long? Maybe not. Like,
Yeah.
who knows how long that's going to be really good for, but it's like, it's cool to see that discovery happen in some way. And that's a thing that like I can say with the perspective I have of playing so many games, like I can identify almost immediately, like this game's going to be very canned. Like it's just going to play out this way. And you're either going to accept that and be really into it, or it's just going to get deeply unfascinating. And the first game that made me realize that, where it's like, oh shit, the drop off is hard, dude. Like this was supposed to be a content goldmine, where it's just like, oh, we all eating today, boys. Like, oh, everyone jump into the buffet. So everyone's making content, everyone's feeling good. That game was Injustice 2.
Ooh.
Where it was like everything about
Okay.
this game should have been like the second coming of a Mortal Kombat X, which everybody can watch and have it be crazy and fun and enjoyable. And then the drop off happened after 3 weeks, and it was like, oh shit, nobody's watching. Now I can play anything else and get better viewership. Why is that? Well, it's because the same thing was happening on the screen over and over and over and over and over again. People just got bored. So this is why by nature, why I think Third Strike is a fascinating game to watch still to this day. Why I still think it has good tournament performance. Why people enjoy playing it and seeing it, because unless you're playing like Chun or Yoon, maybe a Urian, right? Very specific characters that are all about getting you to this one situation and just die, bitch. Like this is where you die. That game is super scrambly. Like even at the very highest level, it's scrambly AF. There's no way you can account for everyone to have all these options at every situation. Like it's just there's nutty things will happen as demonstrated Evo 2024, you know?
Right.
So I think people subconsciously pick up on that shit. They don't realize why it is the way it is, but like it's always fun to watch because of that. Even from like low level players to high level, they mashed out some random thing. Like And I think that's almost like a test is like, can you mash out the craziest random thing that is actually ridiculously high level? Like, can you do that? And in some old games you can. And it's like, whoa, dude, what did you just do? FADC 1 frame canceled into ultra? What are we talking about, dude? Like, whoa. A lot of modern games like don't allow that amount of wiggle room. It's so specifically designed to be played in a certain way. And like, that's it. And I think that's felt. I think it's just felt from a viewership perspective.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's the friction to access those things because, like, you look at frame data in Street Fighter 4, that shit's insane. I didn't know frame data. Sense. I played thousands of hours of Street Fighter 4. Like, that was my game. That's what got me into the scene. That I was traveling to compete for that. And looking back on it, I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know hardly any frame data. Whereas in 5, I picked up that game and I'm like, oh, I need to bust out my frame data app and become a human calculator. And I started to write down Oki setups and frame kills. And like, I was losing to people just mashing jab on wake up in 8 frames of lag, and all that. It was impossible to manually time meaties. And I'm like, oh, I need to be a robot and just learn my auto-timed Oki setups, +2, -2 situations, and memorize these numbers and boil it down to these canned sequences. And then I'm allowed to then break the rules and play flexibly after that. Whereas in Street Fighter 4, there was no buffer on normals. Like, you're going to mistime your reversal normal. Like, people mashing jab on wake up was actually challenging.
Not always work.
Yeah, because you would miss it. You would be late. And then if something was -3 on block, like, a special move. If they punished that, that was a 1 frame link punish. Like, they're a god for punishing that.
Balrog could be like one of the only characters to punish like 2.5 frame jab, like type of shit. Like one of his jabs were so fast that sometimes you were getting it, sometimes you weren't.
Right. So like that flexibility in and of itself allowed so much more variability and play styles and a viewer experience where, it wasn't just decision making. Like your execution, like people, I that drives me nuts to this day. I see so many people talk about how execution doesn't matter, and I'm like, so many things that you might enjoy about an older game are just because it's too hard to do the proper thing.
There's a process. And the friction of that process is what distinguishes player to player. It just does. It makes things more enjoyable to watch. Like even if do you think the majority of the people in the audience, like watching Third Strike at Evo 2024, like the tournament that arguably popped off one of the hardest at the event, knew what was happening or that it was exciting? Like, no, they just saw the craziest like back and forth tug of war between these two players. And it was just like, whoa, like what's going to happen next? You cannot predict what's going to happen next. There's no way you can. Like the game is almost designed in a way, I'm going to argue, not specifically designed for those interactions. Like these all old fighting games are happy accidents, my dude. Like every single one, from Melee to Marvel 2 to Third Strike to everything. They're Street Fighter 4. These games are happy accidents that they did not design to be this way because they're mostly not designed by fighting game players, which is another interesting thing to talk about with modern fighting games. Like I think I definitely feel we're in an era where a lot of fighting games are designed by fighting game players. So you know what they play like? Fighting games.
Yeah.
Pretty familiar. They're designed the way they know they work and why they work the way they do. But back then, Sakurai was not like the highest level competition KOF player, my dude. Like these guys were mostly just like familiar with the space, but they weren't actually playing things at like a really high level and, like in the way that most modern fighting game players are. They're designed by casuals. And when you're in a casual mindset, the focus is on fun. The focus is on like cool things you can do and how do the systems work in between that? Don't worry about that.
Right.
Like it was kind of like, is the game breaking? It's not. So all the old fighting games we know are just all designed that way. They're all designed that way. And then after like the Street Fighter 5 era, Street Fighter 5 was made by fighting game players, straight up. Like the game was designed by people that were in the FGC, like for sure. When you play it and you understand like why the system works the way it does, like why everything counters the way it does, why the meaties are the way they are. It's like, yeah, like this makes sense, So I think I feel that disconnect from the older fighting games to like the new ones when I play them. And like, to be honest, like one of the only modern fighting games I've played where it's like, damn, this game feels like it's made for fun and it's fucked up. Like this game is fucked up, but it's really fun. And people are watching it and they're like, damn, why is this so much fun to watch? Dude, what's going on? Why is the back and forth of this game so insane it was the Avatar game, dude. Fucking Avatar game. And then I find out that, it has a lot of FGC pedigree in there, but it's also people that are like not the absolute highest echelon of players that make anime games. No, they're just trying to make something wild.
Right.
Like they want to make a game that has like no limitations of just
Yeah.
like things you can do, and it's like I feel it, bro. Like it's fun to watch. It makes for great content. Like everything looks different when you're playing it. Will that change over time? Yeah, but at least at an early level, like you feel the intention, and it's like this game's loose as fuck, dude. Like you can really do some stuff.
That was the big surprise for me this year because I was all in on Marvel Tokon, and
We all were.
yeah, and then I felt some of the limitations people were talking about after the first beta, and I'm like, well, I have no training mode, I'm just bad. Then the second beta comes out and Avatar comes out. I give 20 minutes to Tokon, and I just play against the CPU on the random tutorial stage where it actually lets me beat them up for a little bit, and my assist doesn't come out during the startup frames of a special.
Feedback loop is not good in that game.
The moment I felt that friction of like, I'm like, why didn't my assist come out? Oh, I got to time it after. Like once I felt, I'm just like, why can't I just do things and they happen on screen? I turned off the beta and I played 8 hours of Avatar every day.
Didn't even think about it. Like
not even a thought in my head.
To add to that conversation, and as just to say from either like your perspective and mine, I think we're the same. I think we both really want to love Tokon, like a game like Tokon. We want to love it, and I want this game to be the game I can play just for 10 years. But it's at a point where it's so specifically designed in a way to be played a certain way that it's like, yeah, there will be some things, but the game doesn't like benefit you. It doesn't really give you the tools and feelings that I like a normal fighting game gives me. And I want that to change. But it's like, yeah, like I really felt the difference when, especially from a viewership perspective, like there was a really massive drop on like Tokon viewership. People just didn't stop watching after the first session, at least on my stream. And then everybody else, like some of the best players were just not even streaming the game. And it's like, wait a minute, why are we not streaming the second beta of what is the biggest game of next year? Like what is happening? And it's because like, I felt the same thing in the first 15 minutes of playing it at Evo. I was kind of bored. Like game was kind of like not really engaging my interest and things weren't working in a certain way. It kind of, you know, that the thing you argued where it's like, oh, you want to do a thing, but for some reason, the very basic thing does not function the way you think it should. Where it's like, yeah, friction's good in fighting games, but this is like, I want to lift my arm above my head, dude. And it's like, all the other fighting games let me do this. And this one lets you go here and then that's it. It's like, why? Like, that's an interesting choice. NRS games are like that. Like Mortal Kombat 1 is notoriously like that, where like very basic things became really hard to do, like for some reason. And it's like, oh, so you have to like, I have to sit with this game for like 3 hours to like rewire my brain. This is how this shit works. It's very unique and weird. And you could get fun out of it. I think Tokon can be the same way. But once you like wire your brain through this process, this could be a really enjoyable game, but it's got a rough like entry. Like if you're not just hitting these buttons and watching shit happen, that rough entry is brutal, dude.
Yeah, I think the friction for Tokon feels less like if you get through this friction, a world of possibilities opens up to you. Where with Tokon, it feels like there's this friction to prevent you from accessing that world of possibilities.
It's the opposite.
People talking about, oh, in the middle of my combo, if I go to like a neutral state, I can access my neutral assist instead of the can combo sequence. And I'm like, that type of friction does not. It's not like I get through this and I finally unlock the cool part of the game by mastery. Yeah. It's I have to master the game to be able to access normal shit in other fighting games. So I definitely love having friction as a way to allow broken bullshit to exist because it's hard to get to. This is the opposite. The friction is there to prevent you from breaking the game. Like they're scared if you have access to all the normal tag mechanics, all the normal assist mechanics, that the game will become too steamroll or too messy, too broken. They won't let you. The wall breaks are there constantly to prevent that. Steamroll in the corner, and it's just like I'm starting to feel a little bit restricted in that sense, and bored also from a viewership perspective. I feel
it's one of the arguments I have about like it's like Avatar and Street Fighter. In Avatar, there was always a moment that everybody has in the beta where you're like, I'm kind of nice at this, and then you run into some guy that just wails on you, and you're like, how the hell is this bitch playing the game like this? What is this mobility, my dude? Like, what are you doing? And then you pick up on it and you learn. You're like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. Like this loop starts happening. You're like, oh, you're investigating new things every single match. Like 8 hours has passed, man. Oh my God. Like this is insane.
Yes.
And then Street Fighter is a game, like Street Fighter 6 is a game that is a direct sequel to 5. Like this is a sequel to Street Fighter 5. Like so many things, like the shimmy is just still there. And like that isn't really a thing in old Street Fighter games nearly as much, of like avoiding attacks in this specific way with this specific frame timing. And in Street Fighter 6, at least, they're like, all right, so let's fix the problem. Characters actually have tool sets, like big ones, like really a ton of shit you can do. But now we have more mechanical homogenization across the board because of like a mechanical thing that'll really we're going to allow crazy stuff to happen, but our system mechanics are going to control it all, you know? Like
Right.
Tekken 8's in a very similar fashion right now. And to be honest, there's another game that's exactly like that, but it's in a benefit to the game, and it's Killer Instinct. Like the combo breaker system is a thing that constantly exists that allows the game to get stupid. The game can just be stupid, and how you open people up and stuff, because no matter how disgusting the mix was or how ridiculously powerful the moment was, it can be broken. Like you can do something about it. So that's a combo breaker though. That's like post hit. In Street Fighter and Tekken, you're not once the situation has happened, I'm watching a 20-minute multi relaunch combo to the corner in Tekken, and in Street Fighter I have to eat the wake up. Like I have to. The wake up is the wake up. Nothing's changing.
Yeah, I can see the difference in the system mechanics approach. That's why I like the Avatar game, because it has I don't know what you call them, the fuses, the assists, but it's not directly impacting the overall flow of the game in a centralizing way where every character is actually 3 characters. Like I played only with Aang during the beta, but every one of those different fuses, the glider one, the enhancement to the roll that he does on the little wind ball where he can pass through people, and then the one that lets him focus cancel everything or flow cancel everything to have access to all his different cancels. It meaningfully impacted everything I wanted to do. The Oki, the combos, like the conversions. Like as soon as I picked that up, I was like, holy crap, like these are 3 completely different takes on one character, and it doesn't feel like I'm being funneled into any one situation. And then times that with every character, and I was like, okay, like there's huge potential here. Unless like the Oki gets like ironed down and optimized, like that will always happen. Like people will optimize the discovery period out of the game, and then it becomes like, okay, this is how we kind of play the game competently. That for sure can happen with Avatar. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen.
It will.
But it feels like there's a lot more friction to get there and a lot more variability in the neutral interactions.
Just the feeling of like, did this game take a week to figure out or a month is massive, dude. Like just the feeling of like, okay, so comparatively speaking, you took like a week to figure out how the game really works. And then the optimization of that, where it's like, oh, this game is optimized now, that'll take a month. But that percentage of growth is really important, where if it's like, okay, we're still figuring out the game works in a month, so how do we optimize it? That's going to take a lot longer, like because there's just so many possibilities. So yeah, I you definitely feel it in that game. And like as you said, will it get boiled down to like everyone's picking this variation? That happened in Mortal Kombat X. It's the same system. Yes. Right. Eventually people will complain about it. But the first year of MKX was magical. Like it's just the wow, craziest shit you can do, updates and wild changes and all this kind of stuff. It was just like incredibly fun, and viewership wise from an audience perspective, and still nowadays people still love it. People still love going back and watching that, and like you can now pull into the bag of Aang's random variation of one random variation he's got and still pull that out like 6 years later because no one played that one. Oh wow, look how cool this is. That's happening in MKX right now, where people are playing shit no one ever watched from the competitive scape, and people are playing some wild ass version of Alien or some shit, and it looks so cool because we've never seen the game look like this before.
Right. It's interesting you bring up the longevity because of the variation that's possible, because a big discourse going on right now is people talking about patch culture, and especially with Street Fighter 6, people are disappointed by the lack of patches, and at the same time I hear a lot of people complaining about the lack of patches. Yeah. Citing like, why can't you just be satisfied? Spoiled gamers constantly needing novelty and change for the sake of change. And the debate around, should patches be viewed as content just to mix things up? Is there like a pie in the sky ideal balance that they should be aiming for? And once you reach that, do you stop? And, it was funny. I saw your video, I was going back through your catalog, a Street Fighter 5 update video you did in 2017 for Season 2. And at that time, I remember you mentioned you were kind of disappointed that they didn't add second supers and V-triggers and V-skills in year 2 of Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
That was about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're in Street Fighter 6. We're on year 3, where system mechanic wise, like nothing has changed at all.
Not even since the beta, really.
Right. And so I just like that argument I hear online of people saying, why do you expect things to change? I'm like, that's how things have always been, right? And I'm kind of wondering, like, your perspective, like in 2026 going forward, are we going in a good direction with the major franchises, with like this reduced amount of focus on content updates and changes. Like a lot of people are disappointed or discouraged or concerned. I would say I feel like there's a lot of concern right now.
This is just the way the game plays forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of I think there's several other topics, but I think one of them is like the patches and the attention to the major franchise games. I don't know if you have felt that, or you think there's difference in expectations these days versus 10 years ago.
It's an interesting spot to be in right now because we have two games that fulfilled both dynamics. Like Street Fighter 6 specifically is a game in a spot where like a lot really hasn't changed, and they've changed some functionality of existing mechanics and made them either easier to use or just better, which has been good. But those feel like bug fixes. Like the majority of things feel like changing which buttons you can press during things. It's like there's a bug fix, you know?
Right.
So the game is like the same game we've been playing since 2022. Yeah, like it was summer 2022. It is literally like that first beta we played of Street Fighter. Like functionally, like characters are doing similar game plans. They're doing the same thing. The game is playing the same way. Nothing really changed that much. Like their systems are the same. So they don't want to change. And people are kind of big mad. Then we got a game that went through the craziest change in a direction that is like, this is the risk of changing things where they did not need to. Tekken Season 1 was really good, dude. Like they fixed a ton of shit. They addressed a lot of stuff that was like problems, and the game was in a mad good spot at the end of Season 1. And then Season 2 went like, just took the entire bucket of trash and just put it over its head, and it just spilled out everywhere. And it's like, dude, wait, what? Why'd we throw out all the ideology that was being established? What happened? So you have like the opportunity for things to get better or really bad. Like really like actually incrementally worse. And these are two very unique scenarios. Like my dude, I have never seen a active fighting game go for as long as it has as Street Fighter 6 and not really be touched that much. That's really bizarre to me. I thought Season 3 was going to be the shakeup, the Super Street Fighter 6, where it's like they're going to give us another option on Oki. They're going to make the game more scrambly. They're going to make the game a little bit like less play out the exact same way on Wake Up in some way. Like something is going to change the nature of the game, the drive rush type shit, right? But Tekken in the same way is like, it went the worst it possibly could. Like maybe one of the worst updates I've ever seen in a game. Like it had a substantial detrimental effect on the game and the community. So, these are very interesting moments for either one of the big two games that are out there right now that have never really happened before. I've never seen this happen before. Right. So I don't know. I think personally speaking, every couple years, I kind of want to play a different game. Like, to be honest, I like balance patches and stuff in between. I think like a 6-month period is good for people to figure stuff out and the nature of things. Is it great for esports? It's not, but esports is still going to esports, my dude. Like people will be a little upset in the first week or two about like character changes and stuff, but there will be tools for people to find ways to win. Like it is the things should be focused on fun and engagement. And if things are going against that fun and engagement in some way, then there should be shakeups. I really think there should be shakeups. So I've always personally felt that. And to be like, that's not the way old fighting games were. And it's like, no, it was.
Yeah.
No.
I always find that so strange. We had significant shakeups all the time, especially from the Capcom side of things, where you just had a brand new release of the game every year or year and a half, like 2 years max. You had a brand new version of whatever game you were playing, and that persisted. And we've had the least amount of changes. People are saying it's a Street Fighter 5 perspective thing. No, Street Fighter 4, Ultra, go to Third Strike, Second Impact, all the versions of Street Fighter 2. Massive changes for every year or so. So it's a very different time, I think, for a Street Fighter community perspective in that end, where we have seen very little to, like, it feels like abandonment. Like it feels like something internally is going on to a degree, right? It's almost panic.
Here's a couple of perspectives I have from my end as somebody that is like I said, I put like 500 hours into Street Fighter 6 in the first 3 months of the game. And then I kind of got adopted by Tekken after. And Tekken just was like, I can finally play an online Tekken. So this game just had my attention for a very long time. I don't really feel like I felt that the game was being stale or uninteresting. I felt a bit of character, I would say, pressure, because I played Ken and everybody hated the guy, so I just couldn't play what I wanted to play in a content creation space, which is fine. But still, I was like starting to get to, like, at that time, it was like August, September, 1500, 1600 MR level, of very early. This is when MR was just introduced to the game. And I was like, oof, man, if I had to play this game every single day, oof, I would be upset. Like, I play things for fun now, so I like to take breaks for games. But I definitely felt that even at that point where it's like, oof, man, if I just made the wrong choice here, oh man, I would be upset with myself. So learning how to like manage and mitigate that is a huge part of Street Fighter V. Like what you focus on, you can't look out for everything. You have to look out for these things, like your brain and how your brain is processing information ends up being the thing you have to train the most in that game. And yeah, that can be a little rough from a viewership perspective because you can sort of explain it like after the fact at times, but it's hard to like see those things from a rando that just tunes into your stream that has no idea what you're doing. And they see you pull off the exact same thing every single round on wake up, drive rush, meaty, drive rush, not meaty, like parry, like the same 3 options like every single time. So I think that there is a little bit more discourse than ever before right now with like patch culture. Historically, I would say let games rock, but not now. Not with the fact that there are so many options. Like, I think just comparatively speaking, there were only so many fighting games that ran good, my dude. Like, you can even play online 10 years ago.
That's true.
And that was the point where it's like, let shit rock. You have a billion options now, and they have incredible netcode. So, varying levels of functionality. I think you have to give people reasons to play games now, just period. The fighting games are like mostly designed to engage with people in an online environment, and you have to shake up that online environment. Dude, some of the biggest, most competitive games that have ever existed with 10 to 30 times the amount of people that play them every single hour than our little FGC games are updated fucking constantly. Like League gets updated like every month or some wild shit. Like Marvel Rivals just completely changes how their characters operate and work entirely. Like they go through crazy shakeups constantly. And there's so much more money in the space. There's so much more illustrious fervor and viewership and all that stuff. But for some reason, fighting games are different. Like they are different. They don't go through a lot of changes. We have to let people figure things out, like type of stuff. So it's like, I think that should change. I think we should get big balance updates every 6 months.
Oh,
like,
okay.
And then like big shakeups, like actual gameplay, mechanical shakeups, like every like year and a half to 2 years, like every 2 seasons feels about right to me.
Okay, it's interesting to hear you go like on record for that, because I don't know why it still feels so hotly contested. Like every time this kind of topic comes up in my content, I see the YouTube comments and stuff, and there seems to be a real big holdout, and people are like, "Oh, like you guys are just, ADHD brain rotted, like doom scrolling people who need constant stimulation. Like, why can't you just let a fighting game play out?" And I'm like, is that really like how most people think? Or like, are we the ones who are losing our minds here, or is this not the expectation now in modern gaming to have some introduction of novelty? Like, I think novelty is still required to keep people's attention.
I think there's a couple of things, because like the growth process is so fast now. Like you getting access to those better players and all those things, those hurdles and those that friction that existed back in the day is so gone. So you just have the game, like straight up. Like you have access to everything the game has to offer, every training tool, every video tutorial, knowledge piece, like everything, right? So at that point, you can kind of like max out the game really quick. It's like getting to high rank in Monster Hunter. Like you're just skipping, like, hey, I just want to skip all of this growth shit and just like jump 6 steps up and just like, let's just get to the top level as quickly as possible. It's like, dude, that growth is so much more fun. Like, and I've had this happen even in Monster Hunter games and shit, where it's like you try to skip everything and it's like, oh, now I'm just less interested. Now it's just, I'm at the end and it's like, okay. This is why I try to exhaust and extend that growth process in any game I can, period. Where it's like, dude, I'll never be bad at this game ever again. Like, I start thinking of it that way. There will only be one opportunity for me to be actually bad at this and figure out every little thing, like understand why I can sidestep here in Tekken, understand why I should be going for this drive rush in Street Fighter. Like, there's a period of time in that only exists, and then it's gone. Straight up, it'll never return. So your wonderment with the game will disappear and it will just become grinding. And it's like, I don't want to grind anything anymore. Like I'm just at a point where I don't feel the necessity or want to grind anything. I'm in a constant discovery phase of like, wow, what does this shit for my brain? I feel great. This feels great, you know?
Right.
So there's a bit of disconnect with like the people that only play one thing like day in, day out. Like I
Right.
understand where they're coming from. It's like, bro, I'd lose my fucking mind. Like I'd be, wow. Like I need to play
For
something
sure.
else that I like.
Yeah, it's difficult time for the grinders, and I do think taking breaks and finding more ways to gamify that discovery is always like the important thing. As a grinder myself, I've always taken efforts to like focus on one little thing, gamify learning one little interaction, make that the win, like little ways to keep that novelty or that
Micro
growth
optimizations.
alive. Yes, you get a little creative.
What I do is
yourself.
I take the things that I like, I really enjoy, and I don't play them. And what I do is I like even Street Fighter 6, a game that I like playing the game. I have a good time. But if I put gaps of time in between, I find myself able to come back and enjoy it, right? Because that just makes sense. I need to be enjoying what I'm doing on stream, or else it's clearly noticeable.
Right.
And in the same thing, even for old games that I like, Marvel vs. Capcom series, I don't play them that frequently, and I don't necessarily get super great at them. But every time I jump back into it, I go through a relearning process that reminds me why I love this shit so much. Like, this game is just the best, dude. Like, no other games do it like this one does. It's so good. And when that is echoed on screen, like, people sympathize with it. It's like, oh man, it makes for good entertainment.
Yeah, I think that's your secret sauce, to be honest. I think you always put that foot forward of discovery, growth, finding the joy and learning new games, and that obviously resonates with your audience. And I think that's what you've been able to do for so long. And I think that's the difference between the grinders and the people who branch out and try to find joy across the genre. But actually, I did want to bring up one final topic here, speaking of across the genre, because beyond just like the patch culture and things in 2026, I feel like there's been a lot of questions posed, right, on the community level.
Sure.
And I'm looking at this year and I'm seeing things like, Evo is fully bought out by Katia Games. Esports World Cup is dominating the esports scene. I feel like they're eating Capcom Cup's lunch right now. Mid-sized tournaments are gone post-COVID. It's almost impossible to run like your classic NECs or SCRs, or even smaller events are really struggling to keep that going, leading to online dominating things, or like these major FGC events. And then the question of the patches and the current like major players in the game space. Like, what is your vibe going into 2026? Because I feel like, me personally, I've been very discouraged. Actually, I've struggled, especially as like a Capcom Street Fighter fanboy. Their moves regarding the Capcom Pro Tour, like, I love the esports side of the things. I love seeing players push these engines through their limit. I love the history of competition. I'm a huge fan of that across different FGC titles, but of course specifically Street Fighter. And in a lot of ways, I am so frustrated with the decisions that have been made.
We can't even watch Capcom Cup this year, bro.
We can't watch Capcom Cup. You can't even watch Street Fighter League Japan. I think it's always one step forward, two steps backward, and it's been that way for decades. And I think it's hitting a point where those steps backwards are compounding. And I'm very concerned with like what's next. And I wonder how you feel about these events, and like where do you see the community going and sustaining itself this year?
Yeah, talking on the so like there's the Evo front, which I've been involved with Evo and providing for that show for like 13 years of my life, and making it a part, like us being a part of Evo has been a thing for a long time. But on the Capcom front, I can offer a little bit of clarity as far as the understanding of those relationships. And it became pretty obvious when Nakayama talked about it earlier this year, the disconnect of why the hell would you charge people to watch your game competitively? That doesn't make any sense. So there's going to be no trailers there, like that kind of just natural, evolution. The Capcom esports side and the Capcom that makes video games are very different things. They don't work adjacent to each other, and they don't necessarily communicate very much. Like, and Nakayama sort of made that kind of apparent, that like, oh, I don't know what's going on, like tweet type of thing. And he doesn't know if he's going to get in trouble by talking about that, or it's like, oh, okay. That's how I understood it to be going back to 2014 when this stuff first started, where it's like, oh yeah, even Capcom USA was up here, but like their esports division was in LA. And they ever talk to each other? No.
Right.
Like they did they're like, you almost think of them as like a marketing effort. Like that's effectively what esports is. It's just marketing. Like, so they're there just to sell more copies of the game as time goes on. By having an esports thing make people think that you can win a whole bunch of money because you're good at a video game. Like, that is the whole point of like an esports division existing for a game. And they're very separate. And as Capcom has gotten bigger, and they have only been doing better as time goes on, and Street Fighter is at the most successful it's been since Street Fighter 2, that has also consequentially just gotten way bigger, and I think even more disconnected, where it's like the people that are in charge of the decisions on the esports front and how that works is completely unrelated to how the hell the game is being developed or played. So yeah, like, to me, this makes sense. Like, this is unfortunately the way it's also always been. And we've had plenty moments where like the esports side of things so desperately is disconnected from what like players are talking about or doing, like Sagem and Mike Ross, especially, like the biggest champions of the game, effectively like ousted because of their criticisms towards stuff and like how the game actually is. And it's like, to those people that were running the esports stuff, what were they doing? They were doing anti-marketing. So it's like, yeah, it lines up why they are now like, you know, oh, can't have you here anymore. You're going against us selling copies of our fucking game. Street Fighter 6 feels like it's in that spot right now, where it's like, esports isn't stopping the game from being developed a certain way. For some reason, Capcom is just allowing the game to be this. And I think the only reason the game feels a little stagnant and a little ignored is because it is doing so well. And from a perspective of someone that has been in situations where it's like, my game has abandoned me. I've had that happen several times throughout like the fighting game space. And I don't think that's happening now. I think a shakeup is going to take place for Street Fighter specifically. But dude, look at it from their perspective. If they're making all this money and they have all this viewership and the game is the best Street Fighter's ever been since Street Fighter 2, like I said earlier, why would they be paying attention to like people saying this when the numbers are not reflecting it?
Right.
It's like, I see where their perspective is right now, where they might not want to change stuff because they might have a formula to a game that is specifically chaotic in a way that allows it to be played a very specific way that is obviously really designed this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see that. But I guess my main concern here is, I don't come from the perspective of, there are people who are arguing that the esports division is causing the game not to change. I also agree with you there. I don't really think that's a driving force, and I also personally don't care that much. Like, I don't. To me, the game is what it is. I think they should patch it more for content reasons, but whatever. Yeah. The game is how it is. My big concern, or what is disappointing me specifically, is I think the esports division is trying to kill itself. beyond not them trying to stifle the game. I'm concerned about the Capcom Pro Tour not existing in a year. That's because why are they doing pay-per-view for the World Tour Finals built on the backs of qualification events from local regions around the world, which they basically are just taking the content and players from those regions to then put them into Japan, and then they're pricing out the audience from those regions who then cannot watch their representative play in Capcom Cup at all, and preventing content creators from making content based around this for an entire week around it, when the news cycle is already going to pass. Therefore, you can't promote the World Tour Finals. Like, they keep putting up barriers to entry from spectators, content creators, and the general discourse around the tour. Meanwhile, EWC in Saudi has infinite money that are just going to funnel into that. And then the entire esports industry is just based around sponsoring people for a month or two to get into EWC to try to funnel off some esports World Cup money, and then fire them. Like we see Team Liquid just dropped everybody in the FGC division just this past week. And, like, to me, it's not just like the games themselves. I just feel like the pillar that we've had of, like, I mean, esports has always been fake money. It's venture capitalist money before. Now it's Saudi money. Now it's always been funny money with no return.
For sure.
That personally has been very disheartening to me, where I feel like not only are the games not getting updated from like the bigs like Tekken and Street Fighter titles, at the same time, I feel like the esports divisions are killing themselves for no reason, for I don't know what reason. And then, so like, I think this has been, and then Evo itself is now part of the Saudi empire. It's like there's a whole shitstorm of things happening all at once, where it feels like the old guards of things that kept FGC running are kind of potentially about to implode or are dependent on this external source that can pull the funding at any moment, and it all collapses. And we don't have the support system in between of like the mid-size tournaments from like the grassroots efforts as much as we did before. So I'm looking at all that and I'm like, I'm really worried about the FGC part of it. Like, I have a lot of cause for concern here.
Brian, I wish I could provide a legacy point of solace or something that would like make you feel better about the situation. But one of the direct reasons why I just don't really want to be involved officially with Evo anymore. It's a much different thing of me just like watching something and enjoying a product like Fatal Fury, for example, and not wanting to be officially involved where it's like I am accepting money from this. Like there's a very big disconnect there from me. And Evo, I've never really gotten paid for a lot of it, but I've always like been officially connected in some way where it's like, yeah, the whole point of me existing and being here and providing for this is that we can make this event bigger and better and work together just to have it be something, you know? But I don't want that to be that way anymore or to have official involvement, just because once these entities get involved, it's just too big for me, man. Like this has gone to something that is like now a geopolitical issue that is much different than dudes just playing games in arcades. And I want to keep the dudes just playing games in arcades feeling and mentality forever. Like I don't want to get around that. So I want to avoid being officially involved in things that are quite literally geopolitical entities that are involved in fighting game things now. So it's just like, yeah, I'm just disconnected. I'll still watch it and enjoy it. And I'm happy it's happening for players. Like people are going to get paid way more money. I'm happy for the people that are working there because they're also going to get paid more money for things, most likely. However, I think we see where this is going, and the same concern you have is the same concern I have. I am just naturally wary of something going into the things that I love and just being like, gotcha, we're here now. Because it's just going to take everything over. So what happens when they don't become interested? Or what happens when it's not profitable? Can we like go back on the old resourceful locals majors, you know, can we go back to final round and all this kind of stuff? Like, no, like those all got eaten up. Like the majority of those and how the way old things operate was effectively consumed because it outgrew into this big entity that sort of like that now exists. So what happens when that entity doesn't exist? The bubble pops, and it's like we have to pretty much start from the beginning again. You have to start from the ground up. So I don't like that. Just throwing that out. I don't necessarily like that. I think things will be fine overall, but the reason Capcom is doing what they're doing is because esports isn't making enough money. Like that's the only reason that they would do such a weird ass decision. Like you're pretty much admitting the fact that there's going to be no trailer for the next character. Like almost admitting like you don't care that anybody isn't watching live. You just care that people are paying. Like that isn't the point of like releasing big trailers for games and shit, man. So that bums me out. The highest viewership I've ever had for like Capcom for my channel period was Capcom Cup 2022. And it was the big Street Fighter 5 countdown thing at the end of that. We watched the finals and then the countdown ended and all of the broadcasters were waiting for the countdown to end because it was late. And with all this hype was built up and it was the Street Fighter 6 teaser. My bitch ass had 65,000 people watching me on Twitch just sitting here in this moment waiting for this big hype thing to happen or watching big hype tournament. And that's gone now. Like, that's just, I mean, and like that sucks. That sucks for the community. It sucks for me. It sucks for people that want to just watch and engage with shit. And I think even the people that make Street Fighter know that, and they've said as much. Like it's just things got too big. Like entity there's too much money involved. This is the problem with things being monetized, Brian. Like straight up, like when you do things for passion, like you were doing in the Street Fighter 4 era, like I was doing in the 90s and shit like that. When things are strictly rooted as like a passion project, money is a secondary thing that happens. Like getting paid is literally like, oh, this is awesome. Oh my God, I'm getting paid for it. This is fucking amazing. Like this is the greatest thing ever. Like we have that perspective. But now we know that like with esports, with everything, the number one goal is to be paid. The whole point of making videos is to like, for the very, very, very large majority of them, to become a content creator. to like clip farm something that'll sit eternally in the void of an algorithm and just make you money, you know? So I think that is also the challenge of everything becoming a hustle. Like everything, like every single thing, everything that you ever passionate about, like now becomes a hustle in some way. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I did the same thing, but it definitely wasn't the goal from the very get-go. When I started doing this, that was not the goal. And I think esports is also in a very similar situation. Competitive fighting games were amazing until it became a multi-million-dollar hustle. And it's like, now we're starting to see things sort of crack at the seams a little bit.
So if it all blows up, Max, if it all comes crumbling down, because I mean, I definitely think the esports side of things, I don't know if I see a way out, but maybe it persists, maybe it doesn't. Will the fighting game genre persist? Will you still be out there making boss rage, getting hype at new releases, playing some games? And even if it doesn't, what if the titles don't keep coming? Will we keep digging back into history? What's the plan?
Yeah, I love to break it to people, but like, fools played Smash Brothers for money. Like, people were playing Injustice 1 for money. Like, for the longest time, people were playing video games that had no right being played competitively against each other for like actual, as much money was in their pocket. So do I worry about the competitive sanctity of like the future of fighting games and enjoying watching people be good at fighting games? I think that will always boil it down to, is the game good? And not all fighting games are good. I'll just be honest. Like, I think there's a very specific reason why some of them are the GOATs, because they're just always great to watch. And they're always just going to be super fun and engaging games to play. And I think literally like the best games like rise to the top. And from a content creator perspective, that shit is the most evergreen stuff possible. It's why I argue now. It's like, I love fighting games, but I want all fighting games to be forever fighting games. I want them to have things that you can come back to this 7 years later, 8 years later, 10 years later, and be like, this game was shit. Like, it was so good. And there's been a lot of stuff lately that is like, is this going to hit for somebody permanently? Like, that's the only thing I want to propagate is like forever fighting games, and just have the games have the tools to become that.
Yeah, I think we have the potential for that with some releases on the horizon. I know we talked about Avatar. There's still a lot more hype to be found, I think. I'm hoping for the long and continued success of this genre. You know, I think there's been a lot of peaks and valleys, even over my tenure in the FGC, and you've been doing it for much longer. So I'm going to keep looking forward to seeing you bring the hype. And I just wanted to thank you so much, Max, for coming on the show. We've been blabbing for 2.5 hours almost at this point.
That went fast.
So thank you so much for hopping on, sharing your perspective and wisdom. And do you have anything else you want to leave with the people who might be tuning in to the very end of this super long podcast?
No, that's it. I have to give a shout out to you, Brian, because whenever your videos do hit my feed and I'm like, this bitch is trying. Like, that's one thing I have to say, is that like I'm in a spot where I'm in a relaxed zone, you know, where it's like I tried very hard for a very long time. And I try in weird ways now, which is like crazy mod projects and things outside of fighting games to enable them to be bigger. But when I look at your content specifically, I'm like, this dude is putting in effort. And I can tell you 100% based on the work that you have done so far, I recognize that effort. And I think that you're creating a space that'll allow this to exist much longer than just being like a Street Fighter analyzer or something like that.
Well, thank you so much. I'll continue to try to put in the effort. You know, I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you laying the foundation. Like, you got us all kind of started in this space. It's fair to say this wouldn't exist, quite literally, if you weren't one of the forerunners to establish the way this could all go. So, Max, thank you so much for being on here and everything you've done for the fighting game community. And we look forward to many continued years of success, man. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, Brian. All the best, dude.
All right. Peace, everybody. We're out. And that is the end of this episode of Trash Talk. Thank you once again to Maximilian Dood for taking the time to sit down with me for this very, very enlightening conversation. And thank you to our Patreon members over at patreon.com/Brian_F. If you're watching on your video feed on YouTube or Spotify, you should be seeing their names scrolling by on the screen right now. These members make this show possible by supporting Trash Talk, and they also get access to a few extra perks, like early access to mainline Trash Talk episodes like this Maximilian episode, as well as any cut content, behind the scenes material, and also interview questions that they get to ask me to our guests and get in on the conversation with our other programs like Extra Trashy. I wanted to personally thank our landfill members, Chris FK, Flawless Victory, Bryce Scatterfield, Chris K. Hibiki, Jonathan Ayala, SBO, Hasserus, Smoking Seabass, Chuckle Chuck, Kelly Lyles, and 6 Mil. Thank you so much for your continued support, and thank you for tuning in to Trash Talk. Catch you guys in the next one.